so it was perfect timing.
Oh, there we go. That's what I like. Tends
Yeah,
to happen.
I
I've
love it
noticed
when
that.
the plan comes together or the circle comes together. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Very cool, very cool. Brilliant, brilliant. You are looking healthy and wealthy and wise and all good. Yes.
Yeah, feeling healthy, wealthy, and wise as well.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. So I'm assuming you went early to bed then and early to rise.
Yes, kind of,
Ah,
kind of.
ah,
Yeah,
that's the
not
stage,
really
right?
actually. Yesterday was nearly a 14-hour day.
Wow. Yes, for me too. Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one
It was
though.
longer than it was longer than 14. Uh,
Oh,
7 to 11. No, that's 12 plus 4, 16 hours. All right. Well, what can
yeah,
you
no,
do?
14 hours at my desk working, apart
Yeah,
from
same.
collecting my daughter and eating lunch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But no, it was really good. I started a third show. I think I told you, and I did a second interview for the third show, which is a recorded show.
Oh, no, I didn't know. Oh, wonderful. Okay, very cool.
Yeah,
So,
mind
and
blowing. Honestly, the interview last night was
oh,
interviewing conscious creators, right? So
oh,
people who actually have other communities called Conscious Creators Community.
wow, very exciting,
And
very
yeah,
exciting.
very like last night's show, I was a bit tired, but I managed to go through it and it went quite well. We had internet,
Yeah,
the guy had internet problems as well, but he got through. So it's going to be so awesome when it gets released. Really mind blowing.
and that is kind of a big deal because if you can tap into those communities, this is beneficial to everybody. You're aware, obviously, crossover audience, all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
So this is a big deal, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and yeah, I mean, just the honestly, I asked him what is consciousness, and he had an
Ah,
amazing answer.
oh, very
And
good, very
oh,
good.
like literally, like, yeah, and just a very interesting thing. And the guy's been a conscious creator for like 20 years now.
Excellent, excellent,
Yeah,
excellent.
very,
That
very cool.
that
And
is
I've got an
interesting.
idea for a fourth show because I've got people
Wow.
actually requesting to be interviewed by me, but
Yeah, very
but
good,
but they're
very good. Well, you do
marketing
a good
people.
job. You do a good job, man. It's
Thank you. Yeah,
uh,
it's
uh,
pretty mind blowing. But yeah, this one's going to be
I mean,
different. So
it's that we were talking the other day on just with the participants in general, because I always said, I look for a synonym, and impeccability doesn't really have a synonym, except I did find one the other day, which was very fun. And it's one of those things that you kind of know it, and then you just don't put it together. And so, a synonym for impeccability is professionalism. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah, because it was coming in with that story that I was saying, what's mood got to do with it? And this was, when your plumber shows up and they're a professional, doesn't matter that they're in a bad mood, traffic sucked, whatever, right? They there on time and they do the job as required, right? And they set all that other stuff aside. And so if you look at it from that point of view, what's the difference between professionalism and impeccability? Right? It's very much the same thing. So, when you do your interviews, you're very professional in your interviews, in this that you do your homework, and that your introduction is very thorough, right? And that's very important. That introduction, that very thoroughness of the introduction, this is very key, because this is why people are coming to you. The payoff for them is, yes, they can't sit there and advertise themselves. They've got to talk about whatever you're going to talk about. But when you start, must advertise them. Yes.
mhm.
So that introduction, not only does it need to say what it is about them, but it needs to make them look good too. So you're writing ad copy in that introduction, correct?
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
and then when you do your takeaways, as you know, takeaways are critically important to everything. We're going to get there when we do the session on takeaways. But already from the the pre-course, takeaways are very, very big deal. They are crucially essential. So when you put all this together, and then you're paying attention to the people, you listening to them. You want to hear what they have to say. That is a rare interviewer.
Mm.
Seems obvious to you. It's like, well, what the hell yeah. You want to learn what they are about, what they have to offer, right? What they bring. You're not there to score points, how clever you are, how good you sound, all this kind of crap, right? So when you look at things from that perspective, this is a very big deal, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you're in a whole different league, yes?
Yes, yeah. I mean, more so in these other recorded interviews as well. Like last night, that was the thing. Is like I really held back on how much I added, so that the show was more about the guest.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
but,
It's got to
but
be
still
all
added
about
some
this.
bits. Yeah, it is a balance and it is a skill, and
Yeah.
you kind of like have these urges where you want to talk and you have to say, is it relevant?
Yes.
Yeah,
Discipline.
and
Discipline. It's
also like
science.
on another side of it, on a completely like lazy side of it, the more the guest talks, the less I have to talk.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
is kind of handy when you're so busy like me. It's like, oh, I'm saving energy now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just, but it's critical though. I mean, you are there to hear them, but like in anything, if your guest is going to be talking nonstop for an hour or two, then they're giving a lecture or a seminar or something, and that's a different vibe, a different mindset, right? It's and so again, you do need to have something to say because that's what an interview is. It's a conversation. Yes.
Yeah,
So there has to be that flow that goes back and forth, and all these things add up. And you do this well. You do this well. So, and
thank you.
it's always good to be aware, though. That's why I'm making the point here, to be aware of what it is that we are doing, so that we do it consciously and deliberately, and that makes a big difference. Why? Because if you don't do it consciously and deliberately, even though you're doing it right in the beginning, over time that can very easily get subverted by habit. Yes, you pick up little things here, and the next thing you know, you're not doing what you started out doing. Yeah, because it's more convenient, it's easier, whatever, and you can quickly change what you're doing. So it's very key to, if it's working, identify what is working. In other words, we get back to module 1, session 1: clarity of intent. Know what you're doing. It gives you focus of
Mm.
purpose, not just purpose, but focus of purpose. Yes?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Right. So, this question, what am I doing for your daughter? Absolutely get her into the habit of saying, what am I doing? Capital D, doing. In other words, that implies not just, oh, you know what, I'm on Zoom with Matt. Yeah. But I'm also practicing my own professionalism, my own discipline. I'm practicing mood management. I'm practicing energy management. I'm practicing attention management. I'm practicing appreciation management. These are all things I do very, very deliberately and very, very consciously. Yes. I'm
Mm.
practicing capital H, hearing. Yeah, making an effort to listen to you. I'm practicing paying attention to rhythm and cadence and flow. Yes, and balance. So all of these things are all things being done. At some point, I'll read you a poem. It's called "How Do I Know Thee?" Somebody asked me very earnestly, and a really amazing thing came, because this is all about how to hear. It's part of the hearing program. How you actually know others through hearing them. Yeah, it's a lot of magic in there. But my point is that doing things consciously and deliberately, it enables you to maintain them, and of course to assess them. If you don't know what you are doing, how do you assess what you're doing?
Mm.
You can't. It's like duh, right? So assessment is absolutely critical, right? It's capital A term. you don't know what you're doing, it's not possible to assess, which means you cannot evaluate and assess and make sure that what exactly you are doing is appropriate, right? It may have been back then, but as things change, it's different, right? So even though it was working, doesn't mean it's always going to be working, because, well, I haven't changed, yeah, but the world has changed. You know, your audience has gotten in the beginning, it was kind of fresh and novel, and your audience loved it. But now it's like, oh, well, all right, that shtick that you did in the beginning, it's getting a bit lame now. Time to update. Yeah. I'm not saying that you have a shtick, but you get my point, right? So if you're not constantly saying what is my intent, and have that intent be a real overview one, that yes, your intent is to make a show that reaches many, that keeps growing, etc., right? If you don't have that, if you just, then you can get mired in your original intents and stay where you're at, and there's no evolution. So what am I doing needs to take your evolutionary intent in mind. Yes, have that in mind, not just your immediate now intent. Yes, so your intent is to have a good show. You could do a good show, but completely sell out in the long term.
Yeah. It's
So,
always a danger you have to watch. Yeah, yeah, I know that. So I've got a lot of these things in progress. Yeah, a funny thing happened today. So I talked to my mum, and she was like, "I really want to get involved in your shows." She said, but
oh,
I learned some things the last time I was there, and I've got some stuff that I'm like, do it. I'm not going to be bothered or embarrassed or any of
yeah,
those things. That's the
it's
purpose of the
wonderful.
shows, if people can grow. But it made me realize the scope of
Oh,
specifically the conscious
oh,
creators
oh,
community,
yeah.
because she's not a spiritual person at all.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
yeah,
And see, I think this is something that to be cautious of, because yes, I regard myself as a spirit warrior, but I do not regard myself as spiritual. I have no idea what that means. I don't know. I struggle with that term, and it has kind of too much woo-woo connotation on there. It sounds to me, for the most part, well, I'm also been living in the Sedona area. If you want to get to the capital of woo-woo, come to Sedona, all right? I mean, just the things that you hear will just make your ears fall off sometimes. Truly, it's astonishing, right? But there's a lot of people who talk the talk, but absolutely have no clue what the walk is about, right? And you can clearly see this. So I'm just saying that when it comes to spiritual, be cautious. If you don't blend, now let me back up 1 second. Those that are in your market, they are very keen on lots of the spiritual things, right? Because it's very exciting. But when you start to go into it, sometimes it's like, yeah, I don't know so much. You're really asking me to swallow a big fish over here. Yeah. So you get that skepticism that comes in. So but you can't ignore it, because people do want it, and there is a lot of stuff that does make a difference. I remember when meditation came out, right? And it was transcendental meditation back in the 70s. Yes, it was a big thing, was a big new thing, and what was he? Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. He was the guy behind. I think he's still around, actually, by the way. Anyway, and they had this university, and they did studies and research, and it was a big thing. But the amount of resistance against meditation was unbelievable. You cannot believe this. Oh, you're letting the devil into your mind by emptying your mind. You're making it fresh. And oh my God, it was ridiculous, right? So there was a huge amount of resistance towards this. And this, he was very, very dedicated to pressing the benefits of things. So he set up this university, and they did studies and everything. Anyway, slowly over time, meditation came to be acceptable, but it took a long while. It really, really. Now today, meditation is kind of standard, right? Meditation and yoga. Yoga similarly had this resistance. Yeah.
Mhm.
what's
I'm
happening?
turning my heater on.
Oh, brilliant. All right. All right. All right. All right. I've got a heater this big, and
Uh,
and and it sits right underneath me, and it's
well, I'm just
yeah,
gonna
it's
Where's
It's a pet heating pad that I adopted for my butt. I guess my butt is my pet now, and man, it just makes all the difference. That's it. It's the most efficient and effective heating ever. It's too fantastic.
you
Yeah.
see this tiny little circular
Ah,
thing
I see
behind
it.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a little heater fan, bladeless one. It was like
Ah.
70 or 80 euros on Amazon. And
Wow.
it heats this 20 square meter room in a few
Yeah.
minutes.
Wow.
It's
Wow. Brilliant.
actually quite
Brilliant.
good. Yeah, I'm quite impressed with it.
Anyway, to get to my logic here, I'm
Yeah.
saying that things people are attracted to I call it woo, to the wild stuff, in spirituality, but they also have a side to them that wants to keep it real. Yes, so this balance between real and spiritual is very important. If you go all in one way, you're gonna lose most, and if you don't have any, of the stuff that's out there, you're also going to lose people, right? I mean, yes, today, yoga and meditation, these are sort of accepted now. Well, yoga has become exercise. It's yoga, well, at least in America. I would assume it's similar in England.
Mhm.
Yoga is a very, very spiritual practice. But you go to any yoga teacher and ask them, what is the intent of this particular posture stance form? Downward dog. What's the intent of downward dog? They have no clue what you're talking about, right? But
Mm.
there is an intent to all of those specific postures. But none of the yoga teachers know what they are, right? And yoga that we call yoga, it's a physical thing. It's an exercise thing. Back then, yoga was it's wisdom that yoga is. The physical part is part of a much bigger structure, right? Most don't know this, right? That's what a yogi is, a wise man. Yeah. So it's not just a yogi, it's not just somebody who does those exercises, obviously, right? And a lot of people miss the moreness that's underlying or behind yoga, sadly. But anyway, it started when yoga first came, right? Which is why it met so much resistance. It had lots of all of that stuff with it. And that gradually fell away and just the exercise remained. My point, though, is in your shows, I'm personally, from my opinion, right, I feel it very key to not get lost in all the woo-woo stuff, because you're going to turn off your audience, even though they're interested in it. They do want that balance of the real. Yes,
Mm.
so it's very key to have that balance. Very
Well,
key, and you
I
see how
think
people
really,
respond. Yeah,
yeah, that is my thing anyway, is that we are spiritual people, whether we like it or not. I'm not going to say that,
exactly,
but I don't
exactly.
need to advertise that. That will is a
Right,
logical
right,
progression for people who want more,
right,
who want to
right,
understand
right,
more.
right,
For
right.
sure.
So
So I actually, while you a minute ago, you inspired me to just justify conscious creator is about being able to make better choices in your life, leading to better experiences, relationships, and energy.
there you
You know,
go. There you go.
in
That
our meaning of it, because you're right, his
exactly.
meaning of it is a lot more. The guy I
Oh,
met.
exactly, exactly. And that covers you for the whole range, right? So, like when I come on, I have very little in sort of regular spirituality. However, if you really get a little bit deeper, since it's all about energy management, right? That's that's the core definition of impeccability, best use of energy. How is that not truly spiritual? Because spirit is energy. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
I mean,
so you
yeah.
see, when you start to get this now, for me though, I really, and I feel this is very, very critical part of spirituality. If spirituality is not practical, what's the point?
Mm,
It
yeah.
needs to have that practicality to it. Otherwise, you're just asking me to do a lot of stuff and make noises and do things and really, what do I know if this is a benefit or not? I don't want a system that's based purely on belief, because now you've just substituted your ideology for religion. It's the same thing in the end. It's belief based, yes. And
Mhm.
so, that's the problem with religion, that you're asking me to believe and believe, but where's the practical value out of this? Very little, right? Very little. So, that's why when you focus on characters, it's very practical, right? You get those benefits. And that's what we were saying last week. We were going into, we want to get the benefits here and now and be prepared for whatever may come. This is ultimate practicality. That's ultimate strategy. Yeah. So I'm just saying, in the likewise, when you offer that, as a theme, I would say to your guests, in their preparation, I'm going to be looking to find out what practical or usefulness, what I can get from what you do or share or say, right? The realness, not just stuff that I have to believe in, but actually what I get out of it, right? Some of them might decline the interview then. Yeah. Yeah. And you've seen this with some of your guests, right? They have an idea of what they do, and it's all belief based. And like I said to you before, when you're selling something to somebody who already believes, you don't have to justify. But when you're selling to somebody who not sure believes, or to an audience who you definitely know not necessarily believes, now it's a lot harder, right? And now to talk about what you do, you can't just use all of those catchwords that, oh yeah, yeah, and you carry on. It's very, very different logic. But when you ask them for, where's the practicality? In other words, back up what you're saying here. What am I paying for? This is a big difference. This is a very big difference. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just saying to keep that practical in mind, the spiritual and to me they combine. Spirituality needs to be practical. In my mind, it's
Yeah.
one and the same thing. Otherwise, you're really wasting your time. You're really wasting your time.
Yeah,
So
100%
practical
agree with you.
spirituality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very key. Very key. Very key.
Yeah. Also, you see, like last night, for example, Paul lives his job. He lives his beliefs,
Yes.
and he's got so
Yes.
much experience. And you see how he just takes the show, keeps people captivated. His stories were just mind blowing, to be honest. And even I came away from it so much wiser. One of my best takeaway from last night is that you're not living unless you've got unhelpful beliefs. You're not even living. If you were born into a perfect world where you had none of these things, you'd never actually know yourself.
Interesting. Yeah, he has that practicality. So if you listen to him, and this is what I wanted to bring up, right? I wanted to say the value of what we are doing here. We are taking conceptuality to its end, right? So he spoke about how people introduce themselves, yes, and he had lots to say, but nowhere did he ever use the one concept that encapsulates everything that he said, which is self-conception, yes, as opposed to self-description. Now we're going to come to it. There's a session on self-conception, yeah, but just that one word, just that one power concept, if that had been put in there, it ties everything together and it gives you something to take away. Those power terms that go in your dictionary of power, they are those core nugget takeaways. Oh, what was Paul talking about? Well, he was talking about how people introduce themselves and this and that. But if you could have said, oh, self-conception, now you've got it. Now you can use it. You got to remember it in your brain. It's tagged under one thing, and this is what we're looking to do. We're looking to take that massive information and condense it into that fractal concept. Because a fractal, right? The actual fractal. What is a fractal? It is a formula, correct? It's a formula that once watered, once you start putting energy into it, right? It just repeats, and it flows, right? And from that, it starts growing. And then suddenly you've got this massive, complicated thing, but it started from that simple pattern. So the same way. Now, a fractal concept doesn't necessarily repeat exactly, but it flows, and the next step leads from and so on, and it starts to develop because it builds on itself. It's inherently self-sensible. So it builds on itself from that sensibility. So you can create this huge structure from that original concept, right? And this is the key thing, self-conception. The very term tells you what it is in a bigger way, right? To conceive of the self. Conceive is an act of creativity as opposed to describe, which tells you what is. That's limiting, yes? Defining. So self-definition. You don't want to be defined as a person. This is what people unfortunately do. This is his point. He's defining me as a doctor, but then you end up with a lucid, well, I'm a suit doctor. It's terrible. And also those definitions, They don't tell you what you are like as a person. Are you a pleasant doctor? Are you a happy doctor? Are you an efficient doctor? Are you a doctor with integrity or not? You can be a doctor, yes, but you can be a freaking terrible shit ass, for all I know, right? You may be an actual effective doctor. You might be like my father, who's freaking J.R. Ewing as a doctor.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, very literally. I mean, even wears a Stetson. It's too ridiculous. He's a big hero. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's a megalomaniac, BMN, he's just a ridiculous person. A very intelligent fellow, but totally fool. Yeah. It's quite fascinating. Anyway, so my point is, when you start to look at these things from this point of self-conception, it's really cool. And then the other point that he mentioned about like generosity and kindness and a bunch of other qualities. Not once in his entire thing that I heard, I couldn't stay all the way to the end, but not once did I hear him use the word character. That's what he was talking about. He didn't use the word. It's fascinating.
He used the word qualities.
He said, yeah, your qualities, but the particular qualities, because those qualities could just as well apply to personality. I could be the life of the party. You see, I'm generous. Okay. Generosity is, yes, it's kind of part of your character, but if you being generous because you want to gain popularity, that doesn't say much for your character, does it?
No,
Right?
no, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So that word character puts all of those qualities into a particular context, which means that they have character implies having integrity. Yes.
Yes.
Sensibility, sobriety, and ultimately the ultimate in character is impeccability. Yeah. So it's a key difference. I'm just again saying how this dictionary of power makes such a difference. Two concepts that ties up all of that I heard him say, which I think I left about 3/4 way through the show, right? Something like that. But anyway, most of it was already there. So just the power of it when you have those terms at your disposal. Now you start off in the reverse. Instead of saying a lot of stuff, you drop the concept, and now you delineate on the concept, which makes the ability for others to grasp, hold, and retain what you are sharing profound. Yes. Yeah. Or your skill, like as we're gonna go over time and you develop your dictionary of power, you're going to have self-conception and character and a bunch of terms in there. So you could supply this, right? But you don't want to do it too soon with somebody like Paul. Say, right. So if I'm hearing you correctly, in your takeaway, if I'm hearing you, what you're saying is you're talking about character, you're talking about self-conception. Yes, yes, yes. Now you have that summation takeaway power, which, man, this really, really adds. And when you provide that for people, it's like a aha moment for them. It's like, wow, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah. They feel that benefit of getting their concept, their understanding named for them, right? Naming things is a power. In the old days, right, with the wizards and the magicians and stuff, right? Naming was a power, right? They recognized the power of naming, which is, hence you have a name. And, where you have many of these myths and things that come from, or superstitions that, you say a bad person's name. Look, Sauron in Lord of the Rings, right? Couldn't say his name, right? Because you attract his attention by saying his name. So there's a lot of underlying stuff when it comes to naming. But the most powerful part of naming, obviously, is like what we're saying now. The person saying, and you bringing it into one concept. In other words, you putting that uh, um, um, end cap on the pyramid, right? You're capping the pyramid of knowledge. And that cap is, when we say self-conception, you've got this pyramid underneath self-conception, which is everything that he talked about, right? All the story about the doctor and the naming and how you introduce yourself and all of this stuff, right? And how you can get locked into it and how it's limiting, etc., etc. Self-conception, you've now got the title of the story. It's what naming does. Yes, it's the title of the story. And the more accurate and the more appropriate and the more self-inherently containing of the rest your title is, the easier it is to remember the story, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is an incredible power. So it's a mnemonic device, it's a learning device, but because it doesn't rest on memory, because it's a self-evident sensibility, it's a fractal conception, it's a cabinet file, right? That title, it's a cabinet. By thinking about the title, the story automatically starts telling itself. Yes.
Mhm.
And that's what we want. We want self-telling stories. Each entry into your dictionary of power is a self-telling story. Very, very powerful. All right, we'll get to it. We'll get to it when we get there. But that's the nature of of what we're doing. Everything is always connected. It's not a linearity, so it's always impossible to really do these things in without jumping ahead. It's just not possible. It's just the way it is. All right. So where we were last week, we went through all your repeat backs, but we didn't get to your takeaways yet, right?
Right.
All right. I am keen to hear. I am very keen to hear them. And then we'll do session 2, because session 2 is a little different to the others. It's much like the pre-program, just on a bit more focused way, and a bit more specific. So that we can go through together, and then for next time you'll continue with session 3. I'll send it to you in the email.
Okay, so right, we did the repeat. Hold on. We did the takeaways. We
Oh,
didn't
we
do the
did.
repeat backs.
Oh, we did the other way around. All right. Oh, okay. So go ahead then. Go
I
ahead.
thought
Just
it was that way round. I thought you did takeaways and then you did the repeat backs. But
it doesn't matter, but really the repeat backs, I would recommend do them first, because when I do a repeat back, I'm taking whatever you said, like I was essentially giving you a repeat back on some of the things that Paul said, right? Then I did a takeaway to say, okay, yes, what Paul said, but my takeaway from it is that he didn't name it. He didn't have that named concept to wrap it all together. You see? So the takeaway is very much like your conclusion. And during your show, for instance, you could say to somebody, wait a second, let me just check to see if I'm getting what you're saying. And you repeat back what they said, right? That's very different from giving your opinion on what they said, or saying, what I heard from you and I got this out of it, and this came to me, and all the things, because there's a bunch of different takeaways. Right now, the takeaway is simply, what we are taking away as valuable, right? So in my case, what I took away from Paul was that had he named his concepts, it would have changed his communication tremendously, right? I mean, I'm familiar with the content. So my takeaway isn't that, self-conception. Somebody else who was, wow, I never thought of it that way before. For them, self-conception would be the takeaway, yes? But for me, it was, his communication could have vastly improved by naming what he says. Yeah. So you see what I'm saying? It's the thing that I take away with me that is of import, of value, that makes a difference, of note, right? This is the takeaway. So that's why when it comes after the repeat back, it's very important, because the repeat back is there for you to put it in your own words, which makes it your own. Now, making somebody else's sharing your own does not necessarily mean that you're going to agree with them. But if I am going to disagree with you, yes, then I have to have the respect to absolutely know what you are talking about. So I must be able to say it in my own words. In other words, if a third party comes along, I need to be able to explain what you are saying without regurgitating what you're saying. Yes?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
if I just regurgitate what you say, how do you know I know what you mean? Look at the husband listening to wifey. Yes, he's watching the game, and he gets some wife aggro. You know the term wife aggro?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. He gets some wife aggro, and so you're not listening to me. Oh yes, I am. What did I say? And he repeats back verbatim. Yes, and she goes away annoyed. It never satisfies the wife when the husband's able to just quote her back, right? Because she knows he wasn't listening, but she can't prove it, right? If she just had to say, that's a very cute trick, yes. That's just a memory trick. It doesn't mean that you know what I'm talking about. Say it in your own words. Husband is fucked, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, hubby, you're now in jail. You're dead, right? You've got no chance, right? So this is the repeat back to know that you can say it. Now, doesn't mean he agrees, but he's able to say, I at least heard you. I did listen. I actually paid attention, right? So this is the key for it. Plus, it helps you. If you say something in your words and I take it in your words, it's still yours inside me. The moment I put it in my words, it becomes mine. It doesn't matter that we are in the end saying the same thing exactly. The fact that it's in my words inside me enables ownership, absorption, incalculation, implementation, incorporation into you. This term incorporation is very, 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 very key term, right? We think of it as a business to incorporate, but what does it literally mean, right? It means to make into the body, to take into the body, to make physical, right? Corporal as in a corpse, right? Corporeal, bodily. And this is what we want to do. We want to take those things and incorporate them so that we feel our new understanding. We feel our new knowledge. We feel our new awareness. If it's not in your body, it's very difficult to use. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You got to feel it. If it's just up here, it's all intellectual, means bugger all, right? There's no application. So the application is to put it into your body as the starting application. Then you can really apply what you're talking about. Very, very powerful. So the repeat backs serve a lot of value. And of course, especially even as an interviewer, when you do a repeat back, you are checking to make sure that you don't just believe you understand what the person is saying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because that's I've seen this with interviewers. It's like, man, this interviewer really thinks he knows what the person is saying, but he doesn't have a clue. And he's saying, yes, I understand. Yes, I understand. But it's very clear that they do not, right? And now you just sit there and you laugh at the interviewer.
Yeah.
So it's very important to say, let me see if I got this right. If it's something complicated, right? Plus, that helps the guest tremendously because they can't do it on their own, right? But they're making a complicated point, and sometimes your complicated points, they need that extra, that alternative explanation. They need a second, a third, or a fourth explanation even. So this now provides them that opportunity to do it because they don't want to be repeating, right? And then they can do a repeat back of your repeat back or a takeaway on your, and now you're saying the same thing in a couple of different times, and the audience gets the chance to really get it, right? So this is a very, very huge part of communication if you can do it, right? And it's very cool. Now you'll see some of your real expert communicators. They'll make their point and then they'll tell a story to illustrate the point. What is the story but a variation of a repeat back? Yes. Now, it doesn't have the same intent as a repeat back because a repeat back is, you taking somebody else's stuff, but you're doing it to yourself. So it's the same logic, yes? And those stories are very powerful for making this concept. Yeah. So again, it's that repetition in a disguised format. Very powerful, very powerful. And the brain on story, everything is story. And when we take that, everything is story, right? Now, I came across this accidentally, long after Way of Impeccability had been established or put together. But it was very cool. And also from your point of view, right? From a marketing point of view, this is really, really valuable to do. And I think many marketers or people that are in the field, I mean, SEO is marketing, is it not?
Yes. Yep.
Right. So the point of it though is to understand that the brain works on story. So when I was saying earlier, your dictionary of power conception, it is an ultimate title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, how many clickbaity titles do you remember? You may click on them all. I do. I click on them, not all, but I do click on them. But do I remember them? No. Do they stick with me? No. Do I know what they were talking about? No, because there's no connection between the title and if it's true clickbait and the actual content, right? There's a big gap there. It's like, what the fuck, man? You got me to click, but you have nothing to do with what you said, or so tenuous the connection that it's just irritating. However, when you have a conception, this condensation of everything, like what Paul was saying about how you regard yourself. Oh, self-conception, you mean? Oh, well, yeah, see, all fits together. Now I have this title that absolutely connects to every single thing that says and feeds back into it. And so I start, oh, self-conception. Already, I don't even need to go further than that. I can just start thinking about it myself, and I've got the story there. But when I listen to your story, it all adds to my conception of the title, right? It feeds back into itself. So it adds, it builds. This is incredible power, because now in one stroke, my story, self-conception, and I talk about it. In one stroke, that title allows you to know, not remember, know what I'm talking about. So I am providing you the means of education all built into one go. Yeah. It's a very, very, very powerful mechanism. And we're utilizing story, because really all of that explanation of what it is, this is the story of self-conception, right? I mean, all that Paul was telling the story of it, right? And he had lots of stories that went into that. But the grand title of that story was kind of missing. See? And when you make a post and you don't have a title, what happens to your post?
Yeah, it disappears.
It goes nowhere. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Or if you have it mistitled or inappropriately titled. Yeah. Yeah. So titling is a skill, and this is what we're going to be doing, right? If you think of your entries in your dictionary of power as titling transformative stories, life-changing stories, self-changing stories, each entry into your dictionary of power, the extended understanding, right? When you write it out, this is a powerful, powerful story. These are stories of power. Just like in the old days, right? Stories of power. Yeah.
Yeah. So the good thing is that although SEO is marketing, it's slightly different marketing to
correct,
what you're talking about, and it has to be. It goes along with what you're saying. It has to be appropriate.
Right. Exactly.
It
But
can't be clickbaity, because otherwise you get a bounce rate. Yeah.
Exactly. And also look at what Facebook, Amazon, Google, all of them, this term was not there before. Right now, they will tell you, as a marketer doing all of the stuff, like if you advertise your book on Amazon, for instance, right? They will say everything that you do, the key point that the algorithm takes into account is relevance. Yes. Well, if you want to extend that a little bit, relevance and pertinence. Now, we already mentioned them earlier, right? They are so crucial when it comes to leveraging emphasis. Yeah. So now that term, when I did SEO and I set up my website, I don't know how many years ago now, that term relevance was not there. Yes. It was not the thing that you had to know. So then you could, I mean, I came sort of slightly after the beginning of it. But I mean, when people would do the keyword stuffing and have, thousands of keywords in small print on the bottom of their pages, right? I think I might even still have that actually. But anyway, each term though is relevant, right? Because I have a whole dictionary of power put in there. Yeah. But they're all relevant. So it's sort of, I never got penalized for it, obviously. But my point is, this relevance is the key issue, right? So it's really absolutely key. And we're in pertinence too. Pertinence is timely relevance. You want to get into the detail of it, right? It may be relevant to me, but if it's pertinent, it's relevant right now. Yes. So relevance, pertinence, very, very key for leveraging emphasis. And that's what your keywords do. They have to be relevant. They have to be relevant. That's why clickbaity stuff, it works, but they will get penalized, and more as it goes along. I think the clickbaity stuff is going to start falling away. That no, you're going to be promising the shit, you better deliver. Yes. Yeah, it's very cool. It's very, very cool. It's very cool. Got to deliver. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to deliver. We're going to deliver. Yeah, that's why that dictionary of power is called the dictionary of power. Not just useful stuff, good to know, whatever. Dictionary of power. Power. Really makes a difference. It's kind of core to everything. And then when we connect it, when we get to dictionary of power and self-conception, you'll see how it all ties together, right? I mean, already it's just more emphasized on it. But the dictionary of power is your foundation stones. Each entry is that foundation stone. Put them all together, you get the foundation. Foundation of what? Of your self-conception. Yeah. So, Paul had those terms that he was throwing out there to say, okay, but when we go a little bit deeper, I want a lot more than just that to build my character with, not my personality, but my character. Because, you have personality without character, and then what do you get? You get to be a man or a bullshitter, a narcissist, all that kind of crap, right? So, they can be very charming and very schmoozy and very seductive, and they can even come across as very earnest. I mean, Tucker Carlson. You know who Tucker Carlson is?
Nope.
Oh, all right. Well, he's one of the hosts on Fox News, right? He's like their
Right.
main guy. Right. I mean, this guy will lie with the most incredible earnestness. It's unbelievable, right? He's very skilled at being earnest, and he sells what he's saying because of that earnestness. And it's really sad to see, because it's usually you don't quite get that. So, but it's like, it makes you wonder, does he really believe this dribble or not? But no, now they're being sued. It's a massive big deal here in the States now, where, they're being sued by a company that they completely trashed. So all their internal documents and memos and emails and stuff is coming out. And where they say, no, this is complete rubbish, they're a big liar and whatever, and yet he was peddling it, the lie. It's too fascinating, Liars exposed, really. Scary how well people can lie. Very scary. And the one skill that people inevitably way overestimate, with actual studies, tests prove, is the ability to spot lies. We're all hopeless at it, by the way.
Mm.
No.
Spotting lies.
Yeah. Everybody thinks they can spot lies. They can. But when you actually get into the test of it, and you go in and you do a statistical analysis of it, no, at best people come out 50-50. Oh, somebody's looking to join us. I have no idea who this could be. Somebody on a phone. Well, we'll see. I'll tell them to come back later. Let's wait for them to connect. Very interesting. I think I have a suspicion who it might be, but usually they put their name there, though. So. Wow, been a long time to connect. Oh, maybe it's Norma. I ain't gonna connect audio. Anyway, so right. So repeat backs and takeaways. You see, when what's very interesting, of all the things that I communicate, repeat backs and takeaways are the most difficult. It takes. I'm familiar with this already. Doesn't matter how much effort I put into it. It takes a while for it to connect. And why it is, I don't know. It's really interesting. So don't worry too much about it. That's why we come back to it later on the session. But yeah, just it's helpful to do the repeat backs first. It will help your takeaways. Yeah, because you're making sure that you know what it is. But either way, continue where we were last time. Hello. Are you connected? Can you hear us? I don't know who you are. I mean, I'm just busy with Matt, and we've got another hour or so to go. If you want to come back in an hour's time, please, that would be good. I don't want to just kick you off. I just wanted to let you know. Otherwise, you might think I'm just being rude. But I don't think they connected on the sound. Let me check. No, they haven't connected on the sound yet. So they're just sitting there and they're not hearing us. So
They're probably driving along in their car and they've accidentally opened the Zoom app.
Yeah, something like that. So, I try not to remove people because, when you do remove people on Zoom, by the way, pay attention, because there's a little check mark that's checked by default that says report to Zoom. So you've got to uncheck that check mark, right? When you remove people. So I don't know. I try to keep it to a minimum because I think somehow it may mess with things. So, it does. The icon says me, M-E.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. Well, we had one couple. I can't remember who it was with, but we were in a private meeting with a load of us, and suddenly somebody just joined the meeting, and nobody had no idea who it was or how they'd got the link. It was funny. Okay, so repeat backs you wanted.
Yeah.
Now, the way I did it was I did my takeaways in quite a bit of depth, and then my repeat backs were easier ways to repeat back what I'd taken away. But now I've made notes.
Wow. So you did a repeat back on your takeaways. That's quite
Yes.
fascinating. Okay. So it is slightly different to the intent of the repeat backs, right? The repeat back is just telling me what was said already, right? In a different way. It's very simple, very simple. Yeah. But even though it's very simple, it changes the brain wiring. Yeah. That's the point of the repeat back. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I've made a note anyway of what I need to do for the future one. So my repeat back, starting with my purpose is to hone my innate goodness. I will gain an understanding into the power conceptions that are important to me and empower me.
Yes.
I will use these power conceptions and my dictionary of power as the foundations of my own existence and creations.
Oh, will you repeat that, please?
I will use the power conceptions and my dictionary of power as the foundations of my own existence and creations. So,
as the foundation of my own existence and creations, right?
yeah.
So please get into the mic drop habit. These are profound intents that you just articulated, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
you kind of read them off to me like you're sort of reading a list, a shopping list or something, right? I mean, if I'm listening, right? If I'm listening on the surface and I can't quite catch the words, right? It's just too soft for argument's sake. I'm not going to hear the intent. Whereas if you can't hear the words, you can sometimes recognize, oh, this, by the way, the delivery and enunciation, this is important stuff, right? See my point? You need to do it not for me, but you saying it to yourself and you saying it to the universe, to your subconscious, however you want to define it, right? So I feel this is a very key point when articulating an intent to do so with intent.
Yes.
You cannot articulate an intent without adding intent to it. Yes, very key. All right, so let's hear those again, because I mean there's more, but I just wanted to redo it because it's so key. Absolutely so key. Yeah.
Wait a second, just making a note of that. Right. Okay. So my purpose is to hone my innate goodness. I will gain an understanding into the power conceptions that are important to me and empower me. I will use these power conceptions and my dictionary of power as the foundations of my own existence and creations.
Yes. Now look there, the difference. As the foundation.
I tend to rush things. I'm kind of just getting out of. I'm just getting out of the. I've got a hell of a lot to do on my plate kind of mentality.
Yes.
So I'll tell you why in a minute. I'll get through these and then I'll just tell you at the end.
I just want to ask real quickly on when you are sharing what is profound to you, how can you rush the profound? Isn't that a profane act?
Yeah, it's true. When I express myself without reading something, I'm more profound than when I'm reading something. Although I'm getting better at reading because I read the intros and stuff.
Exactly. You know, so take your time to really and here the key is in this communication of the profound. It's all in the emphasis. Yes. It's all about appropriate emphasis. So you aren't looking to just communicate it, which is to say it. That's not communication. That's just broadcast. Communication is to connect to it and have the appropriate emphasis be connected. Yes. Like that last part there, you were saying these are your foundations. That's what you emphasized, right? And this is very key. To have solid foundations means your house is solid. Without that, you're wasting your time. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm here.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I am here to gain perspective for the purpose of making what I encounter usable and valuable.
Yes, capital U, usable, capital V, valuable, right? In other words, usable and valuable in the overall context of your life, not just usable in the little context. No, it's not just like I'm getting a tip, no, it says really that's going to give you use forever. Yeah, yeah, really powerful, valuable stuff. Yeah, makes a difference. In other words, life changing and self changing. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I will approach the material with the intent of knowing it. Capital K.
Yes, yes. What an intent. What an intent. With the intent of knowing it. Knowing, in other words, having it in me. To truly know is to have it in you, is in your body. Yes. In your being.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely knowing. Through that intent and through knowing, I will apply what I learn during the sessions and my daily life.
Mm, mm, mm. I will apply. Capital A, apply. Yes.
That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I will put into practice. This is what we mean by application. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It will become a part of me, not just a new habit, but become a part of me. Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Not just repeating it back.
That's
Literally. Yeah. It's just not
exactly,
a
exactly,
recording, not a recording. Yeah.
exactly.
A
Not a
carbon copy.
regurgitation. Yeah, regurgitators. No, sorry, that's for hubby watching the game.
Yeah. I luckily never lived in that world, so I haven't learned
Yeah,
those traits. I
yeah, good,
know what you're
good,
talking about though, but yeah, I haven't been in that world luckily.
good. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
So I will ask when I do not know. So capital A, capital K, ask and know. Because
Brilliant.
I'll ask with intent of knowing.
Yes, yes. Now, will you ask before you've made the effort to know or after?
Possibly both if I still not grasping it.
All right, but just as a general principle, if you come into contact, right? If you ask before you've made the effort to know, isn't that kind of, sort of like a lazy way of going about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So generally I would it'd be hard to ask before I've tried to know because I wouldn't know what I was asking about is kind of what my brain said.
Precisely. But you get, and you see this with your daughter when she's a bit lazy to make the effort to figure it out for herself, since to come and ask you, right? So it's like a shortcut. But you may give her the answer, but it doesn't help her, right? Whereas if she's made the effort to know and she gets it all screwed up and then asks, the power of your responses then means something because she can connect it to her efforts. Without that effort to know first, the asking is a bit of a waste. Yes. It's a
Definitely.
lot of a waste, actually. Yeah. Yeah. And counterproductive, actually. Counterproductive. So it's very key to make the effort to know first and then ask. Now, I may have figured it out, right? But I'm going to come to you and I'm going to say, yeah, you know what? I put up my own, just going to use the website for argument's sake here now, right? I set it all up, here I go. And, I did all my, and I'm pretty sure I got it right, but I want to check. Right. And then you go, and yeah, you got it. You're 100%. There you go. Now I get that confirmation that I have done what I thought I did. And that sometimes is, what we're asking about, for that validation confirmation. Not that we're looking for approval. No, but you are the expert and I'm doing what you know. So you are in a position to give me an accurate assessment, right? Assessment is not approval. Very big difference. Yes. Yeah. So very, very cool. Very cool. Very cool. So asking, sometimes you can have many different reasons for asking, just to check, just for validation, just as a matter of impeccability. I don't want to assume that I've done it right, even though if you had to put money on it, I would bet that I did it right. Doesn't matter. I still want to check. Yes. Still want to check.
Okay. So I will ask when I do not know.
Mm.
So that's what I just read. So I will learn at my own pace and allow things to develop naturally.
Wow, excellent. Yes.
And I put capital L, capital P on pace because it's my pace,
Yes. Yes.
and a
Yes.
capital N on naturally.
Absolutely. Very key. And also, you said allow. I would recommend maybe to say allow/trust.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Read it again, please.
I will learn at my own pace and allow, or I will trust that things will develop naturally.
Yes. And it's capital T trust. There's a very, very substantial difference between little t trust and capital T trust. It didn't come out in your show. It didn't have the time and scope because we could do a whole show on really the difference, and we'll have our own little mini shows because there are 2 sessions that deal with capital T trust. It's a very, very, very deep term. Yes, very, very deep term, and it connects everything that impeccability is to it. So all right, we'll get there. Very cool. Very cool. Wonderful.
Okay. My purpose is to maximize, and I put capital P, capital M, what I am and what I can do.
To maximize what I can do. Yeah.
What I am as well and what I can do.
I thought there was something there. Yes.
Yeah, so actually it should be who I am and what I can do. So,
Or either way, what I am, who I am, same thing. Same
we're
thing.
going back to the characteristics. You're going to
Correct,
emphasize and focus on them.
Right. So when I become a who and a what, that makes a difference, right? In other words, when I can say who I am, it's not an empty description. That who becomes what, and in the what, when they conjoin, they automatically mean I am able. Yes, I can do. Yeah, my being translates into the ability to do. It becomes one and the same. Being and doing start to conjoin, conflate. Yes. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Not really conflate, but conjoin. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just put next to who I am in brackets being what I can do, obviously doing, but I still put it there in brackets.
Yes.
So I will ingest and digest the material with the intent of knowing it. And by developing that knowing, I will feel it all and begin to live it.
And begin to live it. Yes. Yes. What a beautiful sentence. Look at the innate humility and acceptance of reality in that begin to live it. Not live it, but begin to. Very, very profound, the humility involved there. Very awesome. Very awesome.
Okay. Just I'm actually emphasizing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and I'm going to change this. I put I will learn to be, but I'm going to put this I will become.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Highly
you.
effective. Understood. All
Yes.
capital letters. And balanced. Without relying on habits.
Wow. Wow. Balance is so key. Think of balance, literally, right now, right? Sit imbalanced a little bitty, like tilt one side or the other, right? Forward or backward, sit imbalanced. No, keep sitting imbalanced. Maintain that for, you see what I'm saying? It's energy to be imbalanced. It takes energy to be out of balance, yes?
It's true, yeah.
You can't do it for long. I mean, you just come right back. You can't do it for long. It's like, what the fuck, man? This is a bloody pain in the ass to do this, right? So, but when you look at people's lives imbalanced, like anxiety and worry. It's a gross imbalance. They don't realize how much energy it takes to maintain imbalance. So when you said balance as an intent, it is the intent to reduce those pulls of energy that pull you off balance that you have to fight now, right? So you've got double energy usage, right? Because you're pulling yourself off balance. The thing that pulls you off balance takes energy. Then you've got to spend energy to pull yourself. It's like, oh man, no, terrible, right? Very key point. Capital B balance is a very profound concept. Very, very, very profound concept. Huge, 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 huge. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm just I put a really long sentence in there and I stopped it at habits because I'm separating it into two here.
Yes, yes, yes. Habits are we going to really get into habits? They are super big deal. So we're going to get to habits. Very, very big deal. Yeah.
Here we go. Okay, there's not so this is not such a power sentence apart from so I will stop my bad habits which cause me exhaustion, overwhelm, and burnout and also cause me to feel pain.
Wow, wow, wow. Say that again, please.
I will stop my bad habits which cause me exhaustion, overwhelm, and burnout, which causes
And
me to feel pain. So it's a bit of a long
oh yes,
sentence,
oh
but
yes, which causes me to feel pain. I got you. I got you. Okay.
I do that to myself if I'm not
Correct.
careful on a weekly
Correct.
basis.
Correct. 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 So it's inappropriate, contradictory, um, 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 intents, which tend to eliminate and counterbalance ones that are appropriate, right? So that core sentence there is to eliminate inappropriate intents. Yes. Yeah. Now you may not be aware of them just yet, but it's to become aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's why I was able to make the statement. I'm very aware of the fact that I do push myself very hard, and I'm great until the end of the week, and I'm exhausted. You know, I'm
Oh,
getting to Thursday, Friday, and I'm
go. There
aching,
you go.
tired, fancy a drink, thinking about what I can do, unable to focus on work, still thinking I should work though, you know, so all very but I'm aware of and reducing that and definitely.
Wonderful, wonderful. So in other words, energy management. Yes.
Mm.
So critical, so critical. One second, please, Matthew. One
Yeah,
second.
no problem.
All right, we'll just take care of that. It's done. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right. Very cool. I love that. I love what you're saying there, in terms of the energy management. So crucial, so crucial, so crucial. Yeah. All begins with energy management. All begins there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, brilliant. Business, always good, right?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Send them my address. Yeah, they can come pick it up. You okay there? Something pulling you?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm good. Yeah, yeah. I was just
No, go ahead. I'm ready. Go ahead. Sorry.
oh, okay.
I was done a long time ago, and then I saw you busy, and I said, "Oh, I'll just wait till you're done." Sorry.
Oh, it's the trouble of being on a computer with two screens. It's so easy to get distracted. And I thought you were still busy. So I was sitting there. Right.
No.
So
No problem.
yeah, I added in there, I will eliminate inappropriate intent. So
Yes.
and
Yes.
then
Yes.
I also added in with my newfound balance, I will maintain better energy.
Yes.
So
Yes.
as to
Now.
be more productive
Yeah. Yeah.
and do much more. And I put a capital M on much in less time.
Nice.
Because I know it's
Nice.
possible, especially now my computer's fast.
Yeah.
It's
Um, on that inappropriate intent, I would maybe put in brackets behind it inadvertent, behind appropriate, or in a, because much of that inappropriate intent is inadvertently acquired. And that's important to be aware of. That's very, very important to be aware of. It was inadvertent. You didn't deliberately do it. Sometimes, yes, you made a vow. Like I was dealing with somebody who had trouble getting into a relationship. Yes.
mm-hmm.
And they said, every time I get into it, something happens and it just falls apart. And I said, what happened on that breakup that we spoke about, the real terrible one that was really horrible? And at the end of it, can you walk me through it? I didn't want to cue it, right? So they're telling me about what happened, and as they're telling the story of the post breakup psychology state where they're in, I said, man, I was so upset with this. Like and I forget their words, but they said, like, I'm just paraphrasing because my brain works. But essentially, they said, and I never ever want to be in a relationship again.
Yeah.
Inadvertent intent. Yeah. And you see now, and then they canceled that and changed it and consciously did it deliberately. And of course, the problem went away. But we do this, we don't realize, because there's so much emotion there. I mean, at that time, they really meant it. It was an intent. It wasn't just annoyance, right? So we have to be very cautious with stuff like that. Inadvertent intents, very powerful.
Absolutely. I think this is what they in the spiritual world they call that a contract, an agreement. And
exactly.
Especially when you put so much emotion behind it, you can end up, like you say, closing doors in the future.
Exactly. I prefer intent to a contract, but yes, it's the same thing in the end. And this is a very important part of the dictionary of power. Any good dictionary will give you the understanding of the word, and also will give you synonyms and antonyms. So it helps the understanding. When I was a kid, I carried a book on me at all times, as I told you, but also I carried a dictionary and a thesaurus, because dictionaries I found were very limited for telling you what a word is about. The thesaurus was actually much, much better, because the thesaurus gave me those perspectives on the word. And when you go through all of them and you construct, you say, well, it's not any of these. It's the accumulation, the agglomeration of all of them. Now you get a nice, really nice sense of the word through all of the synonyms, right? Through the different perspectives, in other words. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Very cool.
Okay.
Anyway.
Last one, I think. Look, yeah. I will get clarity, capital C, on what's important to me, capital I. And from that clarity, and from that, gain focus, capital A.
Yes. 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 So the key with clarity is windshield wipers. You have clear glass. Your glass is clear inherently so, yes, which gives you that clarity of vision when you're driving. But if there's crap on your windshield, you need windshield wipers to keep it clear, yes. And life is sometimes rainy, yeah. So clarity needs to be maintained, is my point of view, yeah. My point I need to make, not point of view, right? Clarity needs to be maintained, right? Otherwise, no, gets messy, gets dirty, gets fogged, right? Gets unclear. So this very key part of clarity of intent is to hold that intent clearly in mind. Yes, to be connected to it. Part of clarity here, the capital C-ness of clarity, is the windshield wipering, constantly looking through that particular window. Yes. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's a rear view mirror.
Yeah, it's true. And I was thinking of my motorbike days when you used to have to put the anti-mist up on the thing, and it's something you have to do regularly as well.
Yes, motorbikes are very, very cool for awareness.
Yeah,
if used appropriately. When I was a teenager too, I had a motorbike also. But in motorbikes, because cars were so expensive, they, just anything that had imported components was very expensive. So motorbikes are very popular. But because knuckleheads and showing off and all this, guys getting killed on a motorbike was a regular occurrence. It wasn't unknown. It was very regular. So
same for us when we were younger.
Yeah, I did something really interesting back then. I did lots of these kind of studies. I took those guys on the motorbikes, right? And like the one guy in hospital, for instance, lying there with his leg in the cast, the classic movie thing, right? And I said, what happened? And I did this with many of them, right? I said, can you tell me, like, what happened, right? But they didn't know what I'm about, so tell me the story, right? And they would go through and they say, but then they tell you about the accident. I said, no, go back before that. What happened just before that? And then they would tell me. I said, go back a little bit before that. So I kept getting the video segments of what happened just before that, right? Every single time there came a moment where they did something that they knew that wasn't a good idea to do, but they did it anyway. Fascinating, right? They knew, say, oh yeah, I was going a bit fast there, but I was really keen to go fast, and I knew I shouldn't, but I did it anyway. Well, what happened the next thing? Your wheel slid out and you wiped out. Okay, whatever, right? But there was always that moment of critical choice. Fascinating to me, absolutely fascinating. And this now, when I sort of, very subtly, they became aware that, oh, fuck, I'm responsible. I was being indulgent. I was being crappy. I wasn't being impeccable. I did it for the wrong motivations. I was trying to be cool. I was trying to show off, whatever. Yeah. And so not only was there the choice, but the particular motivation that made them make that stupid choice was fascinating. Yeah. Because with the motorbikes, it was always the same intent, showing off in some way, being cool in some way,
I remember. Yeah, I mean, I was lucky. I got a motorbike at 16.
Yeah, same.
And so I had 1 year of blew the engine up twice and crashed head on into a tree because it was off road. We used to take the bikes off road into the fields and into the forests, and then we'd find the biggest hills possible and jump off them. And most of the time, it was very thought out, but you get a bit enthusiastic, and one time I just came off the top of the hill so high that I landed heading straight for a tree, and I just managed to lean like that. But I kept one of the things is you just said there, and it really rang a bell with me, was critical choice. Even in those moments, I was still able to make critical choices. So I knew I had to get around the tree, even though I was on dirt. And that's the only reason I didn't go face first into the tree, was because I was leaning. So I went past the tree. But I did a lot of and it's a weird one because I did a lot of things that people may consider stupid after that in my later teens. But one of the reasons they very rarely turned out badly was because I'd use critical thinking.
Exactly.
I'd still do them. I'd still do them, but I would have worked out, right, what could happen? How can I avoid that happening? What if I don't do it? How am I gonna, I'd have done all this stuff. And this is kind of that's my interpretation of spirituality.
There you go. It's clarity of intent.
Yeah, it's clarity of intent and clarifying it with yourself almost, but it feels like you got angels looking over you.
There you go. There you go. Now, when we get into the stuff in towards the end of the thing, we're going to get into attunement, and then we'll start to see how it all connects together. Yeah.
Okay.
All connects together. All connects together. Very cool. Very cool. But look at that strategic thinking, critical thinking, strategic thinking. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of my definitely strengths that's got me far.
Right. But I mean, if you take critical thinking only in its sort of purely what it means, you are disassembling whatever it is, right? You sort of look detail. Yeah. However, and it's look to it from the thing has already happened. But when you take that same process and you apply it to a strategic endpoint, a strategic goal, now it starts to become intent, no? Because it's something that you want to do. You're not applying your critical thinking to disassembling something for the purposes of knowing. When you disassemble a motivation, right? Now you're starting to get what clarity of intent is. Yes.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yes. Okay. Absolutely.
So when we look at it, it's not just critical thinking; it is critical thinking strategically applied. It's a difference, right? I mean, it's a very, very distinct difference.
Yeah. No, it was always strategic.
The one is looking backward in time, the other's looking forward in time. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Also, when I do an assessment, I'm not necessarily saying this is what I want. What I really, really, really want, as your countrywomen said so eloquently. You know that cultural reference there, hopefully.
No, I don't. Go on.
Spice Girls, their song.
Oh, what I really
song, what I want.
Of course, I know it, but I didn't get it.
Right? All right, doesn't matter. It still makes the point. I like to slip them in, whether you get them or not. It doesn't matter. That to me is, part of the skill of references, to try and put them in that they work either way. Because not everybody gets.
My brain had not gone Spice Girls at all. My brain was like thinking of famous women, suffragettes, political things.
But it works either way, right? The point was communicated, right? But I can't say it the way they say it, though. That's such a wonderful way of actually articulating that phrase. Anyway, this is the difference between an intent and a want, right? I want a Ferrari. Do I intend to get a Ferrari? No. Why? Because when you ask people, you want a Ferrari? Oh, yeah. Do you want those high insurance payments? Okay. Well, what about going to the supermarket, and those carts and them scratching your wonderful Ferrari's paint? Oh, God's body. Yeah, that would stress me. Yeah, fuck no. What about sitting so low and, you got to look up at all these cars. Everybody's looking down at you, looking down your top. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. And never mind on the Ferrari. I can go on. There are more reasons not to get a Ferrari, right?
Yeah,
But
there's a lot.
yeah. What about your speeding tickets? You're going to get a lot more. But I don't speed. Well, what's the point of the Ferrari? Oh, well, even if you don't speed, you're going to get pulled over simply because you're in a Ferrari. You realize that? Yes. Oh, yeah. I didn't think of that. Yeah, yeah. Especially that red Ferrari that you wanted. Lots of reasons not to get the Ferrari, right? I mean, I do love Ferraris, but I don't think I actually want one. That's why I don't intend getting one. If I get one, all right, but it has to be an addition, over and above, right? It's not an intent to get one. So wanting and intending, two absolutely different things. The difference is, of course, am I willing to make energy into it? And intent is something that is so important. I cannot not put energy into it. I have to. It is me. It is something, and intent is so integral. It's like breathing. It's important. It's critical. It must happen. Yes, that's intent. Yes, it's a commitment too. Right? When I set an intent, I'm committed to doing this. It's so important. It's not like, well, I intend to pay my taxes. Doesn't work. I don't intend to pay my taxes. I pay my taxes. It's a very big difference. Yeah. Yeah. So see, it's a very, very, very wonderful way of explaining intent. All right. It's too cool. It's too cool, Matt. It's too cool. So intent, clarity of intent. The reason it is so critical is because if somebody comes to you and say, Matt, what are you doing? They may just mean it in a casual way, but you will be able to respond with your profound, life-changing and self-changing intents. When you have clarity of intents, what you are doing is connected to that meaningfulness, significance, purpose. Yes? What's important to you, what matters to you. That's what an intent is. Yes? So you know it right away, and you're not ever disconnected. So think of an intent as pushing a car, right? When you start to push that car, and I'm sure you must have at some point in your life pushed a car on your own, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And when you start, that like nothing happens. You put all, and then the car starts to move, yes? It's like, oh, finally. And now it's fairly easy relative to overcoming the inertia, right? This is the key point. That's inertia that made it difficult in the start, right? So you overcome the inertia and now it goes. But if you go too fast, then the momentum kind of runs away with itself, and now you've also got a problem, right? Or you've got to spend a lot of energy. So you've got to kind of keep it a balance. But what happens once you've got that momentum in play, right? To get a little bit scientific on this, if you stop putting energy onto keeping the car going, it dies very quickly. Yes, when you're pushing a car on its own, you've got to keep that energy on it. In other words, it's like the term for it, which from wonderful term borrowed from somewhere, but I love it. It's my own now. It's to have unbending intent. When you're pushing a car, your energy's got to be constant and continuous. Otherwise, it stalls, and then you've got to start all over again to get it going. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This is the key. We need to maintain that intent. It has to be unbending. It has to be continuous. Otherwise, it stalls and dies. You got to start all over again. And this is why people do not get what they intend. Right? And the secret, all of that stuff, they don't understand this. And there's more to intent. We'll get into intent again later on. But this part of clarity of intent is the clarity is there so that you always maintain. It's like that windshield. You stop looking through the windshield, you're going to crash pretty soon, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, if you think of your car, your driving as being your intent, lose clarity and, well, it stalls if it doesn't crash, yeah? I mean, if you're literally driving through a snowstorm well, I've driven through a blizzard snowstorm, right, where you get that whiteout where you can't see. Your option is to either crash or slow down and go really, really slowly if you can't stop, right? And I've driven through them where I can't stop because I know if I stop, I'm going to get snowed in, and you're also going to be in trouble. So you keep driving so slowly, you can just barely see the lines, and you just purely driving by the lines, right? That you can see 1 meter in front of the car. It's quite profound experience, I gotta tell you. Talk about trust, yes. And sometimes we weren't even going that slowly because you had to get through the storm. It came very quickly and unexpectedly, and quite profound. Yeah, a couple of times it's been for me.
It happens to
Quite
me.
the
Yeah.
thing. It's quite the thing. And also, if you slow down, that everybody else is kind of going the speed more or less, right? You got to maintain it because then people are going to ride into you from behind too. Yeah. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've driven through a lot of storms, and I think, like you say, having the motorbikes made me a very good driver, and I understand. Like, I detest people who keep slowing down, who cannot
Yeah.
maintain a constant speed, whether it's snowing or
Yes.
not,
Yes.
whether it's
Yes.
snowing or not.
Yes. The thing that I enjoyed with the motorbike is that it makes you aware that you cannot expect people to be sensible,
Mm.
right? That's how guys got wiped out. Yeah, but they shouldn't have done that. But they do what they shouldn't do, and that's what causes you to wipe out. So you have to be aware that people can do stupid things and make accommodation and allowance for that when you're on the motorbike, right? Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
Otherwise, I mean, I used to tailgate because I drove some long distances sometimes to get the draft to save fuel. Oh,
slipstream. Yeah.
streaming. Yeah, exactly. I have a fun driving story, by the way. Just one quick little point. I once drove from the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean. However, I did so. This was in a VW Combi, right?
Hmm.
Manual. Of course, in those days there were no automatic. There were, but automatics were out of the reach of everyday person, right? So everybody drove manual, right? This was just the standard, right? And like in America, everything's automatic. Very few manual, yeah. Anyway, there it was 95% manual. Anyway, so in my manual combi, I drove from the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean without a clutch.
Wow.
Yes. Yes, this was what really was quite an accomplishment because I had to, yes, some of it was on freeway, but others did go through the residential and there were traffic lights and everything. So I had to really time it, right? Because you can't stop. And when you stop, you have to start all over again. Only once I had to got, and it was slightly bit of an uphill. So I kind of just let it freewheel back. I went into a driveway and then came out of the driveway, put it in second and did the running start and off you go again. Because you can change gears when you get,
Mm.
if you know the sound of your thing, you can change gears without the clutch. Very few people don't know this, right? You don't have to use the clutch, but it just is a bit better. But if you know when to change, you can do it. And this was really something in terms of strategy and planning and going slowly. And people are up yours. Well, I'm not gonna be going for. I have to time it to get it just right. But yeah, try without a clutch. But what I loved was I was right at the beach. I was surfing in the Indian Ocean, and this is the magic of the Cape Peninsula. That it's the two oceans, and it's not the southernmost tip of Africa. It's really peculiar, right? That the two oceans meet at that point there, which is like just off. It's not on the anyway. Just an oddity of geography and things. So it was very fun. Yeah. That's fun. It's a noticeable difference. I mean, it's like 4 or 5 degrees in temperature, which is huge in water. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
fun stuff, fun stuff,
It
fun
is a
stuff.
big difference in water.
Clarity of intent. You see, you have to really know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you get lost all the time. That's what I'm saying for your daughter. If you could get her to, when she's like, say, what are you doing? And get her into this habit of asking herself, because sometimes we get involved, we get immersed, we get distracted, and we forget what we're doing, and we lose connection to what we're doing. And if you get into this habit of saying, what am I doing? Oh, it pulls you back. It pulls you back. It gives you tremendous focus, and it helps you to be much more efficient and effective. Just that sentence, what am I doing? Now, of course, when you connect it to intent, to say, wow, yes, I've got to do this boring stuff, but what else am I doing? I'm practicing discipline. I'm practicing focus. I'm practicing concentration. You start to bring those dictionary of power intents into your daily application, and this is transformative. I cannot emphasize how transformative this is. Why we start with clarity of intent. Furthermore, when you maintain that intent in mind, when you're holding it in awareness, right? You've got clarity, holding it there. holding it here in the forefront of your awareness. What happens to pertinence and relevance and thus emphasis? It is magically enhanced, right? So by holding your clarity of intent, maintaining clarity of intent, being able to say, I have clarity of intent, like your windshield needs to stay clear. You are now constantly connecting your actions to what it is that you want to do, your intent. And therefore things have meaning, they're connected, they have pertinence, they have relevance, and therefore they have superlative, excess, extra, wonderful, amplified, leveraged emphasis. Yes, which is profound. It is profound. Changes your brain. So we want to learn, but we also want to learn efficiently and effectively. We want to apply, but we also want to apply efficiently and effectively. Yes. Leverage. That term leverage, absolutely make sure it's in your dictionary of power. We are going to be talking about leverage very profoundly. Yes, we love leverage because leverage by definition is kind of magical. Yes, it allows me to do that which I otherwise would not be able to do. Yeah, a wand. I mean, why don't you have a magic ball, or, or a magic, I don't know, circle or something, magic hoop? A wand because leverage, right? It's a stick, it's a lever. I mean, back in
Nice.
the day, right? Just think about before we knew leverage, right? There's a big boulder in the road, and we all come and we push like crazy and we can't move the boulder. And some guy says, oh, and they come with the big tree branch and they stick it in and they, put a rock as a fulcrum and there we go. Oh, suddenly they can move the boulder. Holy shit, man, this thing must be magical.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. It's really amazing, really amazing, very amazing. Simple things. Very exciting. Was that all your intents there, Matt?
Yeah, that was all my repeat backs. So actually, they were the things. Did we do those last week?
Say again.
Yeah, we did look into my personal and life intents.
Yes, I want to hear those again, though. I do want to hear
Okay,
them.
because we didn't look at my beliefs or my activities, which take a considerable amount of time and energy.
Say that again, please.
So one of the questions was list activities and behaviors which take significant time and energy.
Oh, we did not do that. Correct. We only did the first question of those. There's three sort of separate questions there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So we did do personal intents and life intents. And I think if you remember, my personal intents were kind of like my life intents with the course. So
Yeah.
be healthier,
Yeah.
be more productive,
Yeah, I'm listening.
be more structured, be more present, do more in less time.
Efficiency and effectiveness. Yes.
Yeah. Clarify my dreams and make them
Oh,
a reality.
oh, that is very critical. Very, very, very critical. Yes. Right. So, also, you mentioned this as an intent to me, and I've already set it as part of my connectivity, and it is to, well, for want of to paraphrase it, I'm just going to summate it as to communicate fully, right? And part of communication, the crunch of communication is capital H, hearing. Yes. If you cannot really hear what someone else is sharing, hear beyond what they are saying, hear past what they are saying, two different things, right? To hear beyond is not the same as to hear past. Yeah. Right. So to hear past, beyond, hear through what they are saying, then you're not truly going to hear them, because very few people actually are able to truly articulate and express themselves adequately and appropriately and effectively. Yes. So this is a very key part. So part of those intents is capital H, hearing, and therefore communicating. Because the better you hear, the better you're able to communicate. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The more you hear people, the more you're going to hear their motives, their intents, their psychology, their blockages, their awful truths. And then, of course, you can communicate to take those into cognizance. Yes.
Yes.
So I want to add into your intents now, capital H hearing or communication. But first is the capital H hearing and then the communication, right? Because these intents are very key. We're going to come back to them regularly and we're going to update them, fine tune them. Now you've made intents which are intents of discovery. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
On some of them. So over time, though, we are going to add to this list. But the things that are mattered to you, I take those and internalize them. Why? Because it's not that I'm now going to change everything in order to just satisfy those particular intents. No. But what I am going to do is share in such a way that whatever I'm sharing touches and connects in some way to your intents, thereby making everything pertinent and relevant to what's important to you. So it sticks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard to do, really. You're just making everything relevant to what the person wants. Yes. So, to me, if I were to summarize all of your intents, I would say Matthew's intent is to be more Matthew.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. That's your root core. If you take all of those, right, and I do this automatically. I make those abstract categories, and then I take those and further make a list of categories, and then until I get to one, right, till I get to the capstone, right. So to be more Matthew, yes.
Yes, definitely. I rearranged them as well just then.
Wonderful,
Into priority.
Wonderful. Exactly. And that's the key priority, because if you can be more of what you already are, you already make the effort to hear people. This is just a matter of more now, right? You already make the effort to be effective, efficient, and sensible, and so on. It's just a matter of getting more tools to enable you to do more of it. But all of it is more Matthew, in essence, correct? Very simple. To connect to your own moreness that's already there. Bring it out. Really make it shine. Polish it. Yes. Very cool. Very, very, very cool. Just too wonderful. Just too wonderful. Very exciting stuff.
Now, I don't know if you remember my life intents. They were quite profound.
Please share them again. That was the next thing I wanted to ask you. I do want to know that.
Okay. So spread the understanding of the miracle of life. I think it's a big thing that people just completely oblivious to.
Yes.
And I blame religion for that. People have got all confused. They're like, are we evolved? Are we God? Oh, I don't care. I'm going out. Are we evolved? Is there a God? Oh my God, it's so confusing. I don't care. Let's go and meet my friends and socialize and forget about everything. I think that's kind of like the mentality of humanity at the moment, and thanks to religion.
Yeah. Very big deal. Very big deal. So it's just to share the awesomeness of moreness, or to share the moreness of moreness, to bring the moreness of moreness into awareness. Yeah, it's profound.
Yes. So then the other one is and I was just going to reword this: become an example of sustainability that others can model.
Yes. Now, sustainability and impeccability. What's the difference?
Yeah.
They're inherently the same thing. Why? Because they are both looking to make best use of energy. Yes. But impeccability implies a little bit more than sustainability. However, from a general public communication point of view, sustainability is a better word to use than impeccability. You're going to scare people with impeccability because they think it's religious, or because you look in the dictionary, it still has this outdated understanding. It says best to be without sin. Way outdated. Anyway, so
is that what impeccability has in the dictionary? Is it?
Correct. Most of them, yeah. I mean, then you get to the second one, and sometimes they'll elaborate, but to say the impeccable gentleman, in other words, somebody of honor and character, etc. But yeah, the core definition goes back to the religious one, right? And a lot of people are connected. Well, it's not possible to be without sin. Oh, come on, seriously, you know. Yeah,
Mm.
I've never sinned in my life. I've done stupid things, yes, but sin, no. Why? Because there was no intent behind it. There was no conscious, deliberate choice to do that. I've never done something that I regret doing and that I felt that I shouldn't do. Never. I never crossed that line. So don't come tell me we're all born sinners. That's absolute crap. It's just to justify your own crappiness. You say this. Thank you very much. Now you can get away with it. I mean, hell's bells. If ever there was a religion made for the mafia, here's one, right? Tony
Mm.
Soprano. Yeah. Your cultural references again. It's a
I
great
know The
show.
Sopranos, yeah.
You know The Sopranos? Okay. I mean, this is just too wonderful how they went into that. I mean, essentially what he was looking for with going to the shrink was to say, no, it's okay, actually. You're all right. You're okay. Right? He's trying to justify his crap. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit, right? No. So, but yeah, sustainability is a wonderful point to say. To be sustainable, we need to be impeccable, really, right? So it leads there. It's wonderful. Wonderful. Keep going, please. This is wonderful.
Okay. So yeah, and this is where I put work towards the improved mental and spiritual health of humanity. And when Erica was here, we added the word sentience rather than humanity, but I think it's all connected, truthfully.
Correct. I mean, the reason that I added sentience is simply so that we take all creatures into account.
Mm.
Humanity, we're just focusing on humans, yes. But your countrymen made have declared it's a legal entity now that octopi and that whole family are now regarded as sentient beings. It's codified into law.
Yeah, you see now, one of the things that I see in my whole vision of impeccability, actually, is probably the best way to describe it, is that we cannot not consider the entire ecosystem, the
Exactly
entire
that.
universe in
Exactly
our
that.
lives, and that's one of the reasons so many of us are in pain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I try to move away from the word humanity because it's racist,
Okay.
right? It,
To other animals.
what about when the aliens come?
Yeah.
Not well. He says when, not if.
No, I was actually going to say, what do you mean? Come, they're already here. Yeah.
All right. Well, when they come openly, yes,
Yeah,
that's what
that's it. When they're
that's
not in
actually what I
hiding.
used to say when they come openly. All right.
Yeah.
My point is, if we're so in the habit of the language of saying humanity, we automatically going to be. Let's assume we get a scenario where we get this like refugee ship, right? And it's filled with like a dozen different alien races. It's not just one, right? And there's some there that are in between human and animal. It's this whole range. If you start talking about humanity, you're going to be discriminating automatically, and you're going to end up with bad public relations with all the different aliens, right? So, but when you talk about sentience, it now takes away all of those barriers and boundaries. Yes, it's a very big, profound thing. Plus, not only that, but like I said, it makes us able to respect things in a very different way. Say, okay, I've got a bit more intelligence than the average animal, but what about trees, sentient trees? Well, they got a sentience we're not even connecting to. Am I smarter and more clever than a tree? See, it changes this logic. So anyway, I like to see it as that any sentient being has the ability to be more sentient or less sentient. This is your choice, right? It's all about that. So now I'm not making the distinctions between different creatures. We're all in the same boat. We're all looking to be more aware. We're all looking to be impeccable. Doesn't matter what you are, whether you're a tree or a mouse or a flea or an alien, doesn't matter. Yeah. So it just puts us all together. And that's why I prefer sentience to humanity. I know people use it meaning that, but it's the terminology is so critical because humanity is by definition exclusionary, yes, where sentience is not. Yeah. It's inclusive. It's inclusive. And that inclusion is a very, very big difference. Yeah. All right. So it's very key, very key. Yeah, I tell you this, if there's one thing that I fervently not just hope for, but intend, it is for aliens to come, at least openly. Yes. I'll tell you a story about aliens actually in a moment. But this would be really profound, and I don't think that they if and I like to think of it always from the other side. Let's assume that we have the ability to send, like we discover wormhole technology, right? And we see these other planets out there. What if we were the aliens, right? And we scouting out this, how would we approach a planet? What criteria would we have to connect and contact? Yes. It's really a fascinating question. Very, very fascinating question. Anyway, it's a deep topic that I can go into a long time. But back in the day when I was in the beginning stages of being a young man, early young man, right? We ended up in New York, and we stayed on 101st Street. Really, okay, the cheapest hotel we could afford, and it was really like quite an experience. But then anyway, so to save money though, we wanted to go downtown. So all right, we'll walk. In those days, we could walk for. I mean, we literally had walked up mountains and back down again, no problem, right? Okay, so we walk. Of course, 100 blocks where we came from wasn't quite as far as 100 blocks in New York. So downtown is like, so we're walking down Broadway. We stayed on 101st and Broadway. That was where the hotel was. So we walk and we walk and we walk. And as we walk, you see homeless people on the side of the street. And, okay, I'm curious about everything. I want to know, I want to see. Where I came from, there weren't homeless people on the street, right? Just didn't exist, right? They weren't allowed. They were removed by the police, whatever. So, okay, and you see this is quite an eye opener, right? Especially in America, New York. I mean, this is like, sophisticated city, wealthy, all this. It's like, wow, this is like, the reality is quite something different, when you're down on actual street level. However, every now and then on some of those people, I'm like, to my companion, did you see that? Yes. Like, holy shit. Right? We walk a little further, same thing. Did you see that? Is that for real? Is that real? After a while of seeing this a number of times, I said, no, sorry, I'm going to be rude and stop and turn around and actually look at this. Yeah? Because what I saw was not human. There's no other way to describe it, right? At first, I thought, all right, maybe these people, they got elephantitis or God knows what all. I mean, the ability to distort the human body, those things, I know they fall through the cracks. And I have a really cool story about this, that we don't see these people. But if they now in a place where they aren't, living in the basement anymore, they're out on the street. Anyway, this went on for quite a while, right? And I saw these. I cannot say in any honesty that what I saw are people, right? If they are diseased or whatever, they're so far removed that they're not in any way relatable to what I know as Maybe they're not extraterrestrial. Maybe they're species that have lived here amongst us all this time. And, this is how they get by in the disguise, okay, they lived in the forest, but then they found, well, it's much easier to be anonymous in the city, be homeless and nobody sees you. But I stopped and looked. I said, sorry if I'm being rude, but I had to stop and look, right? I could not ignore, because it's just how I'm set up. I cannot ignore an anomaly. I cannot do it, right? I need to get resolution. And this just went on, I mean, this was repetition. It wasn't just one or two, it was many. This was a profound experience. Right? It's a profound. And to this day, I cannot picture what I saw. It just did not sit in my mind. I have the tagging experience of it, but the visual I cannot see. Really profound, very profound. And then when I later, this was way before Men in Black, right? So Men in Black, the big thing was in New York. All that's where the aliens live. I said, yes, I hear you. I've seen this happen, right? Now, Men in Black was one of the first times I had that experience of things happening, where I had experienced it and then I saw it in the movies, like the movie-fied version of it, right? The other time was in X-Files. They had a story about um, on the reservation. Something was killing stuff and shredding them and ripping them apart, and they didn't know. And obviously, the end of it was somebody transfiguring, turning into an animal, shape-shifting, in other words, right? But long before that, I'd been on a reservation, and we were hitchhiking at the time, and we got a lift from, this was in Arizona, yeah, and we got a lift from an Arizona ranger, right? Name was Alan, and wonderful tattoos that he got in Japan, the most incredibly brilliant, because he was very good at kendo anyway. So this was a big deal. He got it from the Yakuza because they like very jealously guard their pigments and paints. Anyway, sorry, I divert. Anyway, so we're driving along and we're looking for somebody. It's a very long story, but nonetheless, so he says, oh, you see this restaurant over here? It's all closed up. It's at the gas station. He said, oh, one day some guy just walked in there and he shut the place up and nobody knows why. And he says, oh, you see over there, in this forest over there, every now and then we get called in and we find remains of people that we have no way to explain how they come, right? So he just said it like kind of casually, sort of part of his job. And then when I saw the X-Files, I said, oh, they must have been talking to Alan, because it was the same stuff, just in the series. And this made me think, it made me think that I would assume the writers were taking the stuff and, like Alan, and just going to the stuff that it's there. There's literal files like that. They don't call it X-Files. They don't say there's aliens involved, but it's just unexplained stuff, right? Like this.
Mm-hmm.
It was totally unexplained to him, but it's part of his reality. He'd had to go and investigate. He said, I don't know how the hell this happened. Who knows, So it's very amazing. So in that one area, by the way, just as a little extra to the story, so he dropped us off and, he said, okay, we asked around, and he had to go, and then he came back later and picked us up again. And it's really over and above just giving us a lift. That's another long story. So we go into this place, and it's like an extended, houses there, but they sort of got bushes and stuff around them, and it's gravel roads, but it's not straight roads, right? Anyway, so we're going and we're looking for this person, and we go knock on the doors. But holy shit, did we now see terrified people, right? So, first of all, who the fuck are you coming and knocking on my door? Mostly, if you come and knock at people's door, they come and answer the door. They're curious, and like, especially in residential areas, suburb areas, in the city, that's a different thing, but in suburbs, and no, they'll kind of check you out. Yeah, what do you want? And they think you might be selling something, or you Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever. These people barely opened the door, and some did not. And you knew there were people there. And when they did, they would just have a little tiny crack, and probably the chain was still on. And, and some of them said, what are you doing here? They said this right out. What are you doing here? So they lived in fear. It's astonishing. Why we were immune, I guess, in our bubble of earnest intent, just to do what we need to do. But we also knew that we could not tap into that. The moment we tapped into that and gave it credence and credibility, we would become vulnerable and start to attract. So we knew that what we were doing, we had enough understanding of intent and attention management, energy management, to keep our bubble deliberately and keep going, right? And we knew that, yes, theoretically we were in danger, but also we had that ability to protect. Because of that, doesn't mean
Which
we
is
were
similar to what I was saying earlier about the critical thinking and making the choices. I would do things that were questionable and not sinful, really, but questionable. And I would create a bubble of safety bubble, because it goes back to that phrase, where focus goes, energy flows.
Yes. Yes.
And so if you consider the possibilities but don't focus on them, the negative, then you can stay on track for the positive.
Capital A attention, in other words. That's what that is, right? Capital A attention. And that holding an attention that was appropriate at the time, right? We held our attention to what we were doing. We held our attention on being at ease, being comfortable. They afraid, not me, make the distinction, right? And I couldn't take on their fear, right? We had a mission, we had a potency, we were following attunement. I mean, I still live by attunement exclusively. It's a long story, but it all adds together. It's very profound. It's very cool experience, though, to see something from the inside. In other words, it made me really realize that show was there's a realness to it. And it made me relook at many of the other shows. Okay, some of them, all right, they're running away with themselves, but doesn't matter though. There were many shows which you can sort of backward extrapolate and reverse engineer to come to the sort of real world underlying anomalies that were involved. It's very fascinating. Really makes you look at the world a little differently. And I've lived with so many anomalies that you got to say, hey, once is a coincidence and twice is a conspiracy, as Mao Zedong said, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, too, a lot of stuff gets exaggerated into being conspiracies when there's usually a very simple explanation that's not magical, but of course doesn't mean that there isn't a magical explanation sometimes, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's lots of weird things out there that defy explanation. Yeah, I've got lots of stories about them. We'll get to them by and by. All right,
More
so
makes for fun.
yeah, so you can. I'll send you session 2,
Mhm.
and you can go through it. But be aware that it's a different session to all of the rest, because it's kind of what we're going to be doing is what it's called, right? So it's just telling us, it's sort of a repeat on repeat backs and takeaways and stuff like that, and some other things too. But yeah, you can certainly do repeat backs and takeaways as appropriate, but it's not quite the same as with the other things, where this is just making you aware of what's coming, right? So you don't have to take it in and really lock it in as much as you want to do with clarity of intent, and with the next session, session 3, which is about awareness, right? So, but do essentially make notes so that you've got a nice hold on it, but you're not looking to internalize it as much. Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Moto E7i Power. I don't think they have sound, but if you're there, I'm keen to know who you are. I just think they came on and didn't connect the audio, and thinking I suspect, I think I know who it is. And what they've done is they have, they've opened up another app on top of Zoom, and they're not aware that they're still on Zoom.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's lucky they didn't connect the sound then, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why they don't know, because you still hear the sound if you bring something on top of Zoom on the phone, right? So anyway, all good, all good, all good. To me, I'm always happy if people listen in, and I have said to some people, feel free to listen in, and I don't think you mind. Yes.
No, I don't mind. Yeah.
No.
It's good for me,
Hey,
to be
if
honest.
they got benefit out of it, it's part of our impeccability. I was telling the story yesterday, actually. When I was a kid, Russian spies were the thing, right? Whenever there was trouble, the government blamed it on the Russian spies. Now, of course, there were real Russian spies and agitators who did cause trouble, because that's what the Russians do, right? And they still do it, right? So it was legitimate sometimes, but of course, they used it as an excuse for anything that went wrong was the Russian spies. But in this focus on the Russian spies, the stories of like Romania and Hungary and Czechoslovakia, where they would have this intense spying on the populace, right? Everybody was always spying on you, and the surveillance, right? At that time, it was audio surveillance; it wasn't video. But nonetheless, this idea of you always under surveillance came into it was out in the news or whatever, and it grabbed my mind big time, right? So then I imagined what it would be like to have somebody watching you, right? Some always watching you. This was in the day before video, right? And small video cameras. So this caught hold of my mind, and I said to myself, how would I live if I was being continually watched and observed? Yeah. And
Mm.
and part of my intensity, thinking things through to the end, I took this all the way to the end. And the result was that I changed how I lived, so that if I was being secretly recorded or watched, and say, well, hey, I was picking my nose. Yeah, well, I pick my nose when I'm in private. So bloody what? I'm not ashamed of it. It's just something I do. You have to do it, whatever, right? So I started to live, and that was the real consciousness. I didn't use the word impeccably, but I lived without apology, in other words, right? Whatever it is, or embarrassment. And it changed. It really changed my life. I made this concerted, deliberate effort to live as if I'm always on surveillance, and it's changed my life. It's very cool, very cool. Impeccability applied, right? Live like you're under constant surveillance, because you are.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I've considered definitely, and I think the way you described impeccability there is something that I am able to do for sure.
Yeah.
Happy.
Never have to live without apology. In other words, live without embarrassment. Fine, you see me picking my nose when I'm in private. Why should I be embarrassed? You're the one who's looking. It's like, well, what the fuck did you expect? It's like, come on. So it's not an issue. It's really,
So,
really fascinating. In other words, you are able to justify whatever it is you do. Yeah, always, always. And that observer, even if we aren't actually being observed, well, in our world today we are so much, but that observer is your conscience, right? You're always being watched by your conscience.
yes, yeah, I think the thing justifying what I do or being able to is something I'm trying to move away from, because it's what I've spent my whole life justifying my actions the opposite way around.
Yes, I agree. Right.
But
So
it's just become a habit. It's become a habitual thing where I feel I have to justify my actions when I shouldn't. So it's the opposite of impeccability.
Right. Exactly. So yes, in one sense we do. When I'm impeccable, I don't need to justify. The impeccability is the justification. Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, should somebody come and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. You say you're living impeccably. Like, why are you doing that? I'll say, well, because of this, and that. There's a logic and a reason and a sensibility to what I'm doing. Oh, I didn't think of it that way. Yeah. All right. So in that sense, I mean, so yeah, it's very cool that you bring out that discrepancy. Like everything, vocabulary is contextual. We need to understand this, right? And also that we assign meanings. To justify can be basically to excuse myself, but that's not the actual, when you really get into detail, that's not necessarily what justify means, right? It's simply to provide a rationale, yeah, whether good or bad, right? It gets misused for excusing, right? Which is a different thing, yeah. So when we get into the nuance of understanding conceptions, makes a huge difference, a very big difference. All right, brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Really fun. I really enjoy our time together. It's really awesome. A lot of fun.
Me too, so thank you.
Yeah.
It's
Brilliant.
really enjoying this.
Okay, so I'll send you session 2, and like I said, do the repeat backs and the takeaways a little bit more casually on this, because it's really just a kind of a preview of what we're going to be doing. Yes. Right. So just kind of gets you a little bit more in touch. A lot of it's going to be repeats, because I took session 2. It's that pre-course program takes it into real detail. I thought I'd do a better job of it. So, brilliant.
Okay, so have a great rest of your day. See you Thursday. Yeah, it's Tuesday.
Yeah. No, Friday.
Will I see you Thursday at Conscious Creators?
On the show. Yes. Don't
worry, I did that yesterday with Paul. I said, see you Friday. He said, no, I'll see you Thursday.
Brilliant.
It's funny, I see this. So just wanted to let you know that I had an absolutely amazing weekend. And so I've managed to schedule, or as they say in America, schedule all of the posts for all of the shows for the next 2 months. So till the end of the season. So Conscious Creators Community is done. So there is now a reminder, 24 hours, 8 hours, 1 hour, 15 minutes before, and all through the week in the group. You've probably seen starting this week, I've scheduled some questions. But the problem is I can't schedule the questions as one of those colorful little backgrounds. So what I've been doing is I've scheduled them in the group, one question Monday, one question on Tuesday. Okay, and then something else on Wednesday. I can't remember what it was. And then I've also scheduled them, but as on my profile, because I've got another tool that schedules to my profile. And what I found this week is that I got 0 engagement in the group on the question on boundaries. One like, but I've got 10 responses already on my profile on the question.
That's really interesting. That's very, very interesting. Yeah, I think that, in the group there, that group is starting to be seen somewhat as just a notification thing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, if I'm going to respond, I rather respond on your timeline because it's more intimate, it's more connected. Yeah.
That's my next goal, is to with the group anyway, is to hopefully today, maybe tomorrow, send every single member so far an introduction saying, hey, I'm Matt, I run the group, you've probably
Yeah.
seen me on the show, with a questionnaire asking them what they would like from the group.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then just explaining that the group is for more than the shows. We're there to answer your questions and discuss the topics, and also for you to make suggestions.
Yeah. 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 So I can tell you right away, for me, one thing that I don't want in a group is where I'm forced to participate. I got too much to do. So I'm happy
Yeah,
to observe. I'm happy to here and there say or interact. But if there's any kind of expectation of participation, I'm too busy, man. I'm too busy. So just know that I'm there, and yes, I'm there in a supportive capacity. I'll interact here and there when I can, as it grabs me. But at the moment I start to feel I'm under sort of a bit of an obligation to do so, then I will lose interest because I cannot afford that. I just do not have the space for it.
we share that. We share that. I literally, yeah, I feel, yeah, it triggers
which
me a
is
bit.
why which is why you're getting more engagement on your timeline, because there I'm engaging with you and you alone. If I had to start putting that into the group, now I might get comments from a dozen different people, which means a dozen different responses. And I don't have time for such in-depth discussions, as much as I like them and enjoy them. My own group is supposed to be a discussion group, and I don't even get it there. So also there's a bit of futility involved too, from my perspective, but that's just me. But
And
I'm also saying, though, I feel that a lot may have the same understanding that they just don't have the time for anything extra. You ask a lot of time and you get it. I watch your interviews and I come on the shows. That's basically me adding another client to my schedule.
yeah, I understand. Yeah.
You know
And
what I mean?
absolutely, I mean, I'm like you. I don't want it to be an obligation. What I want to say to
Yeah,
people is
exactly.
more importantly than
Yeah,
the community itself and the other members who watch the show. And I'm going
yeah,
to encourage them to say, we're here for you. Like, we can answer your questions. We will do shows based on the most popular suggestions. You know, and also the other thing I'm going to do is add all of the members as group experts. You've seen that you got this group
yes,
expert
yeah, I
thing.
know. I've added people. I do that to them. Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I
I'm
very
thinking,
seldom use it. I think I might actually be the only group expert in my group.
well, that's what I mean. If all of us were on there,
Great idea. It's a
then
great
it
idea.
would enable people to be able to contact us individually
Yep, yep,
and
yep.
ask us questions.
Like instead of making them group experts, because I said I made myself the only group expert since I'm the principal admin. But instead of made them all moderators, I said don't do any moderating. I'm simply making your moderation so that people take you more seriously. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
use
so
more.
I'm going to do both group expert and moderator probably, so that people can, if they wish, moderate a bit.
Right. If you get heavy traffic and you get serious numbers like I have, having people as moderators, they don't have to do like approve people, all that stuff. But what is handy, if they see spam, they can immediately remove it.
Yeah.
Posting pornography or whatever. All right, it's a private group, it's not a public group, right? Conscious creators.
No, it is a public group, but
Oh,
I'm going to try and police it, because without it being
yeah.
a public group, it's hard to make all the videos public.
Right, right. So exactly. So then having everybody as a moderator and say to them, look, don't worry about approving people and all this. Just the key point is that if you see something inappropriate, either report it if you're not sure, or simply, I mean, if it's like pornography, obviously just remove it. Right? You can click on the three little dots. Don't click remove post. Click remove post and ban poster. Right? Want them to ban the people. Right? So
Yeah.
this is a big deal, and that helps tremendously. It's nothing for you to do it because you're doing it as you see it and everybody does it as they see it. But for one person to do that, it takes a lot of time. I mean, I probably spend a couple hours every day simply doing the admin for the group. It's a lot of work for little return, I might tell you. So,
Yeah, well,
and
that's why
at some
hopefully I'm going
point,
to be the only one adding the members to the group. I'm
yeah,
only going to add people who answer the questions. I put questions on the group.
there you go.
Um,
There you go. It's
yeah,
important. It's very important so that you have them there from an intent point of view. Yeah. I left the group open because it grows and the numbers is important. Numbers attract numbers. But at some point we could even look maybe at doing some kind of a merge. You know what I mean? If you just say, okay, hey, I'm gonna disband Sassy Group and put it part of Conscious Creators, or something like that. I'll see. I thought of selling it even because I get nothing out of it. I got to tell you, a little disappointing.
yeah. But that's what I was saying. I mean,
Or make it private and change it back to its original intent.
yeah, I think the issue, like one of the things I'm realizing is the bigger the group or the bigger the page or the bigger the profile on Facebook, the lower the reach. And
Correct.
also the harder it is to improve that reach. Like the
Yeah.
reason I'm going to direct message every member right now is because there's only 45 members. And that's only, and as soon as I direct message them, they will get notified now of me posting in the group
Yeah.
because we've made a connection and Facebook thinks we're good friends,
Correct.
even though we
Correct.
may become friends.
Correct.
And
Correct.
then I will try over the coming weeks to have a routine of messaging every new member.
Yeah.
That way, every new member will get a notification when I post in the group.
And they are connected to you personally, right? I mean, even though in a month's time you may not really remember much about them, but at least you've made that direct connection. I've chatted with you. I know who you are. We have connected, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, this is very important. That's a very powerful way to build a group. This is what I tried, but back then it was a different reality to now on Facebook. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very lucky person. I'm not very good at short-term memory. I'm really good at long-term memory. So,
wonderful.
like, yeah, I remember people who I've had one conversation with 2 years ago.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. And then that's important. That's why you get people coming in on your personal timeline. So they're always probably likely going to be very intimately connected for you, right? So that you get that engagement on your personal timeline rather than in the group because they want to connect with you.
Yeah.
You say
Yes.
anybody else? They're there because of you, not anybody else.
Yeah. So I'm starting to see how I've never seen myself in this light before, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, and it's good that I'm very balanced because I'm not taking it an
I mean,
ego way. I'm just like, oh,
you can't. I mean,
this is surprising, is the best way I can put it.
right. I mean, it is, but this is the thing. When you put yourself out there and people start to connect, they recognize Matt is going somewhere and they want to jump on the train.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, they want to jump on the train. I don't know. People just keep sending me messages, direct messages saying, I love the shows. Thank you so much. It's like,
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
expect that.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was not something I set up the shows for.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know. But people can't help themselves. They can't help themselves. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That golden rule screws people up, right? Because they're sending you messages of approval because they want people to send them messages of approval.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm good at responding with approval anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm gonna let you go because I know you've
yeah.
got a whole day
No,
ahead
it's
of
all
you.
good. It's all good. It's all good. I always have time for this. Always have time for this. Talking about messages, make sure to pay attention to Venus messages. He said, man, he asked me to do something, and then I sent him the message to say I've done it, and he doesn't respond to my messages. Like, bloody hell.
Um, Let's have a look. Thursday,
Well,
20 past
it's
4.
not pertinent and relevant right now, but it was when she was making up those guidelines, right? Because there was some time pressure to that. So it's like, how does he know I've done it and I'm finished with it? It's like if he's not responding to my messages, it was very amusing.
I think, yeah, I mean, so I basically until the weekend, my
Yeah,
messenger was nearly 3 weeks behind. It was
right, right,
so busy.
right.
Took me 2 hours to catch up at the
Yeah,
weekend on
yeah,
Messenger.
yeah.
But I
So
was trying to
you
see,
might,
but
yeah,
it's
you might
stressful.
need to make a second identity that's your business identity that allows people that people that need to get hold of you, that is a priority messenger, right? So
Yeah, well, I'm gonna. All these things are coming together, so
okay.
I'm good. Now I've caught up with that content. Now I'm
Oh,
like a
you
new
are.
man this week.
Uh,
Now I've got all that. I've got I think I've got 300 social media posts scheduled
that's fantastic.
for two
That's
months
fantastic.
on
So I
four
can look forward to
networks.
being spammed by Matt like really awesomely.
I can It can't be, no, it won't be spam because otherwise I get blocked from Facebook. But if you
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, my pro
Well, because I've been consistently like, I like on everything that you do and all this. I get the notifications of every notification that you send out. So
no, still, but it's still, trust me, it's not too bad.
no, I
Um,
don't. I don't mind it.
just
It's
don't
fine. But
follow my business page. Don't follow my business page because I do have a business page, and that is one
correct.
of my goals is
Yeah,
to move, like you were just saying there, is I want to move all of the people who are more interested in my business to my business page.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Who
yeah.
want to know about digital marketing and
Right,
content creation. But that
right,
still means my profile is going to be really busy, to be honest.
right. By the way, I have seen this, and it's a big focus, and it's a very lucrative focus to combine the two. In other words, people that are into spirituality, learning, growth, right? In other words, you're the conscious creators, in other words, right? To say, how do you get your marketing? And say, hey, I do marketing specifically tailored and geared to conscious creators, spiritual, blah, right? Because now this is a very different mindset. You coming in and you speaking their language. Yes, you're going to connect them to marketing, but it's not two different worlds. Yes. And it's a very lucrative market because people want to have, I don't want to be selling, I don't want to be pushing, I don't want hard sell, blah, 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 right? They want that softer, gentler approach. And they have an idea that their marketing needs to be different. And when you connect those two, it's very, very powerful. I've seen some others do it and they're having great success with it. Right.
That's my plan is selling without selling
There you go. There you
through
go.
content.
So,
Yeah.
I used
Like,
to I used to tell my staff who had struggled with selling, right? When I had businesses, I said, "Don't sell." What do you mean, don't sell? I said, "No, don't sell." What do you mean, don't sell? I was deliberate in this emphasis of don't sell. So I do not want you to sell. But what am I here for? So I want you to help people to buy, change their whole world.
yeah, it's good. It's
Don't
very
sell.
true.
Help people to buy. It's a very big difference. I say, if you're helping somebody to buy, right? If you really want to do it, you're gonna have to go out. You come out from this side of the counter and go stand next to the customer. Help them to buy. Be next to them, right? When you help people to buy, it's a service you are providing. It's huge. It's huge, and you've seen this happen in real estate, right? Where you get a buyer's assistant rather than somebody selling you real estate. And they have a legal obligation to help you to buy. It's a whole different logic, right? So it's a very profound thing. It's a very, very profound shift. Yeah. Perspective shift, very simple. Yeah. And they love that. All the people that are into the spiritual stuff, learning and growing, they love this. Eh? I'm not helping you market. I'm helping you to help your customers connect to you. I'm helping them to buy from you. It's a service, right, that you're doing for people. It's communication, interconnection, so on and so on and so forth. Right. Something I spent a lot of time on, so we can get into it as we go along. As we go along. Everything, by the way, is way of impeccability. Everything.
Everything is
Way of impeccability.
way of impeccability, right? So yeah.
No, there's no area where, oh, this is way of impeccability and this is the other stuff. No, everything. That's why I'm saying we're talking about your business stuff now. It's all connected. Makes no difference. It all relates. It's all way of impeccability. Always, right? Very key. Very key. Brilliant. Brilliant. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. I love that you caught up too. Very cool, man. I'll see you on Thursday then. Yes. If not before. You said you had the third show and the fourth show. Are those going to be, when are those going to be? Different days?
No, so I'm not going to do them live. They're going to be pre-recorded. Yeah,
Right. No, I
because
realize that.
I just basically
Oh,
there's a lot of people in Australia and other time zones where it's nearly impossible to do a live show with them.
yeah.
For me to be live with them and in a US time zone is nearly impossible. So
Yeah.
these are going to be pre-recorded shows, which I will
Edited or
broadcast
not?
on social.
Or are you just
Sorry?
going to broadcast them whenever? You're just going to
Yeah,
broadcast.
so I've already got 2 recorded. I've just got to edit them. But the thing is, like, I like to. I'm a marketer, and I've got the capabilities. I've got to create an intro, like I did for the Food for
Yeah.
Thought, and like I've done. Have you seen the videos on YouTube where they've actually got intro music and a logo? And
Oh, I haven't. I stay
okay,
away from YouTube. It's too much of a rabbit hole for me.
yeah, they're in the group as well.
Okay.
But because we started going live, I'm kind of like, do I upload them twice or not? I know you stay away from YouTube,
Yeah.
but I've actually, if you, I've got, oh yeah, that's the
Oh,
other
there's
thing I
tons
did
of
this
value
weekend.
there. It's just that,
Hold
I
on.
got priorities and my priorities suck all my time. So
I've
yeah,
just given you my YouTube channel, that's all.
I'll go look
And
there.
so, yeah, that was the other thing I did, Sil, right? I didn't just get all those posts scheduled this weekend. I got every single video edited up to this week and uploaded to YouTube, and they're all
Wow.
scheduled to go out every one a day for the rest of this week till next week. So by next week, I'm completely caught up.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Wonderful.
I
All right.
think,
Very
yeah,
cool.
you're
I'm going to subscribe to your channel. I just got to sign in and no, that's the one I
cool.
want.
But yeah, if you look at both of them, Food for Thought and
Oh, you
Conscious
got two
Creators
YouTube
Communities.
channels. Oh, I didn't realize that. Did you send me two links then?
No, I sent you one. They're all on the same channel. So I
Oh,
haven't
oh,
separated
oh,
them out
oh,
because I'm going to
oh.
change the header just to say release your conscious creator
Yeah. Oh, so
this
just make
week.
two playlists then, essentially. Just make two,
Yeah,
two.
that's what I've done. So if you look, you've got Conscious Creators Community at the top, one
Yeah.
playlist, and then Food for Thought second, which is the second playlist.
Yeah.
And then I've
Yeah.
got all the videos below. And then there's going to be basically 4 shows there. And I'm also going to try and get them cut into shorts so that they'll be all over YouTube for people watching the snippets,
Nice.
hopefully bringing them
Nice.
back to
And
the
then
video.
those shorts you can run on Instagram and TikTok.
Exactly. Yeah. I heard that TikTok has just allowed long videos.
Yes. Yes, correct.
So
Um,
but I'm going to do one thing. One of the things I used to be very good at is doing everything at the same time and not getting anywhere. So right
wow.
now, number one goal is YouTube and the group. They're kind of like together. I'm
Yeah.
doing those 2, keep them going, and that involves increasing the audience on the shows and all those things. Then probably at the end of the season, I'll take everything that's edited for YouTube and Facebook and give it and put it on TikTok.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I mean, TikTok, please do not underestimate TikTok.
No.
Everybody's doing that. TikTok is the most powerful marketing platform right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it's
By
like
far.
compared to the others, the
By far.
reach and all that stuff is much better.
TikTok, just TikTok is responsible for 2022 having an increase in book sales. TikTok,
Wow.
book sales, TikTok, book sales. We would not make this connection, but it is so, right? So be aware, TikTok is more powerful than people realize, yes? And it's being used in a different ways. The key is to understand TikTok, right? So those short videos, of course, grab the attention. If you get people's attention and you've been creative enough to get my attention, I'm going to reward you by looking at your long video on your website or wherever. I'm going to click through, in other words. Yeah.
Cool.
So very cool on
Yeah.
TikTok.
So
Very cool. Yeah.
one of the other things you will see if you watch just the first like 30 seconds of the video is I've edited every single show so that it doesn't have us talking at the beginning.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
starts
that's
where I
important.
say welcome, and it says
Yeah, and
welcome
where
to the show.
where you're saying, okay, let me get connected and wait for thing, all that stuff. I know it's hard to get rid of
All
that.
gone on
Yeah,
YouTube.
it's
So
important. It's
yeah,
important.
that's the only reason I might do that in the group for people to watch the shows later.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
if they didn't have to see 5 minutes of.
It's important. It's important. I don't have the time for it, but I would love to do it for mine. But it's very important. Yes. By the way, on TikTok, it is about being creatively, ethically clickbaity.
Right.
It is really what you're doing is to have impeccable clickbait. It's legit. You are doing it to catch the attention, but it's legitimate clickbait. If you can succeed in capturing my attention, oh, that was very clever. All right, it has nothing to do with what you're saying, but you got my attention. Okay, I'm going to reward you. Right? It's quite amazing. It's quite amazing.
I'm gonna actually. I'm gonna ask for my 9-year-old daughter's assistance with that. because she loves those those TikTok dances and videos. So she's a bit more.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of find the middle ground there. I would happily show you at some point.
Please.
I'll show you how to edit long videos very quickly. I've got this down to an art now. I found this. It was all co-creation. So Jennifer, who not Jen, but Jennifer, the hypnotherapist in the group, she said to me, "Oh, you need to try this software, CapCut." Right. And I was having a nightmare with my software at the moment, being really slow. So I downloaded it instantly. I made a video in less than quarter of the time. It took me minutes. But then when I went to make a new video, I suddenly realized I can open up the old one and just drop the new video in the middle of the intro and the ending and change the cover photo. So it takes me literally, I can probably edit an entire video in less than a minute, because all I have to do is find out where I speak, drag the cursor up, check it's okay, and press save.
And send me a link to that software, but put it in an email for me if you don't mind, please.
Okay, sure, yeah. So, but what I'll do is one day when you've got a bit more time in the future, I'll just take like 15 minutes to show you through Zoom if you want.
Oh, I would love to. I would love to do it next time. We can do this next time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be very cool. Yeah, because I've done lots of extensive video editing. If you need video editing, I'm a really good video editor. You know, if you really need cuts and blends and all of this stuff, right? I can do that, but it is time consuming when you just sometimes you want to cut out those 5 minutes. You have to render the whole thing, and it takes an hour to render it. It's like, come on, really.
Oh, that's where the CapCut's cool. I mean, it takes about 5 minutes to render a 2-hour video.
Yeah. I never understood why. You've got the video, you have to re-render the whole thing when you're just snipping the end off. It never made sense to me.
No, I mean, I used to use Camtasia and
I mean, I have Premiere Pro, which is high-end stuff. You can make movies in it.
But that's the point. Is Premiere Pro is like the high-end, high pain in the ass because it takes so long to do it. I mean, like literally, Camtasia wasn't much better, but this CapCut, it's also designed for TikTok, so you can add all the emojis, all the transitions. There's no extra cost. There's none of this stuff in there.
What's it called again?
CAP. Cut, CUT.
Okay, capital cut. Oh, right.
Yeah. So just when you watch these videos and you see the intro, if you want a little intro like that, when I had my digital marketing agency, I actually bought loads of lifetime licenses for video software.
Yeah.
And so I can create you a nice little intro. They're different on Food for Thought and Conscious Creators Community. So there's 2 different intros with nice like moving videos and pictures.
Nice. Yes.
And logos exploding and stuff like that.
I've made some of those too for people. Yeah, it's cool stuff. Yeah,
cool. Well, I mean, again, this is just a bit of software. I drop your logo into it, put your business name and press, and it's done. I don't have a lot of options. I can only change the colors, and it's all done. And that takes about 10 minutes actually. But I don't have to do anything for it once I press go, except for wait. And also it's cloud-based. The software I use is not on my computer.
Yeah.
So it doesn't rely on my processor. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to have to go and collect my daughter from school. It's been a pleasure to speak with you, Sil. Thank you for the extra time today.
Always. This is fun and exciting stuff, man. As appropriate, always as appropriate. All right, brilliant.
Okay.
Bye-bye, man. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Too cool. Let's stop this.